OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Yeah, you're very welcome along to Monday morning's OTB AM. We're here with you all the way until 9:30, and we're looking back at the Ireland Hurling final. We'll also look back at the weekend's football and loads more coming your way. If you want to get involved in the conversation, you can use the hashtag OTBAM on Twitter, or if you're watching us live on Facebook, then I'm sure you can leave a comment underneath like you can on YouTube. And if you're watching us on Periscope, then you can also comment on the side. We check them all and we get them all, so get involved. Owen, you were at the game yesterday?
I was. You were as well?
I was. We'll tell you how we got on at the game in just a couple of minutes, but first we want to just whet your appetite for what's coming for the rest of today and for the rest of your life, really. Here's Tommy Walsh pre-game. Have a listen.
Like a man, you played the game. That's the hurler's prayer, Joe, and this is our day. Not Kilkenny's, not Tipperary's, not Galway's. This is the day of the hurling people. It doesn't matter if you're from Ballygalget in Down or Ballysaggart in Waterford, Kilmallock in Limerick or Kilmiley in Kerry, St Mullins in Carlow or St Finbarrs in Cork. Everybody loves All-Ireland Final Day. It has given so many great moments, emotions and winters to so many counties. Who will forget 1996 when Wexford became champions and every man, woman and child in Ireland knew the words to the purple and gold and dancing at the crossroads? What about the thunder and lightning final of 1939? And we will always remember 1989 as the glens of Antrim emptied as the Saffrons marched to Crow Park. We've had wonderful captains who have captured the emotions of All-Ireland Final Day so beautifully. Since I was a little boy in Ballyhale, I dreamed of one day doing this. Henry Shefflin 2007. What happened us last year has finally been buried, and thanks be to God. Pat Fleury in 1985, a year after the heartbreak of losing the centenary All-Ireland. Of winter na Galway, tar é shock blin agus quega, tá crave na hair na Rashin Yolov. Joe Connolly in 1980 in one of the great moments in Irish sport, as he especially acknowledges the emigrants before, as Micheál O'Hare puts it, the striking up of the West Awake by the great Joe McDonagh. Which finally brings us to Tipperary and Kilkenny. 28 years ago, on the first Sunday in September 1991, I attended my first All-Ireland final, and I sat directly over there in the lower Cusack on my father's knee. A little nod, a wink to the steward. We squashed into the one turnstile and on we went. 2 for the price of 1, Joe. Tipperary won that day with a fox, a Viking and a man named English in their full forward line. But today, will the tables be turned? I hope so. All will be revealed at 5:15 today, Joe.
Yeah, Tommy Walsh tapping into history and personal experience and everything else that makes him one of the great analysts in the game. That was good. I missed it obviously because I was at the game.
Yeah, you'd love kind of a live feed of Tommy Walsh into your ears pre-game. It's almost like actually just bringing a pair of headphones to the game with you, which I kind of regretted after hearing that. Yeah, so like obviously he didn't get his wish in terms of tails being turned, and I'd say there's a few kind of confused heads this morning in Kilkenny. Obviously we'll get into it throughout the morning in terms of analysis and all that, but not their day yesterday, and it is the day of Tip, as we'll see across the back pages.
Yeah. What was your experience of the match like? Absolutely
drenched in the Nally Terrace because I'm cheap. It's actually it's a great place. I haven't been in.
Yeah, so the Nally Terrace is beside the hill. What's the difference?
It's just that you can enter on Jones's Road, which I think is a perk. You can actually get central enough, so you're actually behind the right post on that end as well. So it's not that much of a difference. You just don't have the sprawling expanse of going around the corner like you do in the hill. But yeah, it was a great experience. Like, it's just, I really do think that if the sun is shining, there's no place to experience an All-Ireland final quite like the Terrace, in my opinion. Like
the sun shone for a good 25 minutes of the game.
Yeah, I think I actually got a little bit of sunburn, to be quite honest with you. Sunburn and pneumonia in one day.
Perfect.
Like one tip voice behind me was like, I don't care who wins this game as long as it just stops raining and stuff like that. There was an American bloke behind me who was absolutely enthralled by the fact that it was clearly his first ever hurling game. Like, what a bat, bro, I think was what he said when Brian Hogan had a particularly long puck out. And he was exhilarated by the massive hits that went in. I think it was Cathal Barrett who nailed somebody right underneath that
Adrian
goal.
Mullen.
Yeah, and then obviously you had the Richie Hogan incident as well, and he thought he was at a game of ice hockey really when he saw that.
Yeah, okay. We'll get to the nuances of that. I think Will is standing by at the Clayton Hotel. It used to be the Burlow. How are you, Will?
Good. How are things, Owen and Ger?
What's the crack? this Tipperary team have been known to enjoy themselves, it's fair to say. So are many of them down early at the breakfast buffet? Lashing into their eggs and sausages?
I haven't seen a single Tipperary player management out. I saw some videos on Snapchat and Instagram last night of players still celebrating at 4:30 in the morning. Understandable when they won their first All-Ireland in 3 years. It's mainly supporters with pretty sore heads who are leaving the Burlington early this morning, getting ready, of course, for the home of hurling to welcome back the Liam McCarthy later on when it goes to Semple Stadium this evening. And if it's anything like the scenes in 2016 where they absolutely packed the place out, it's going to be a remarkable crowd, I think, there tonight, lads. So
just explain what their itinerary is for today. Obviously, they'll break up into little bits of dribs and drabs of groups and do different things. Some of them will go to the kids' hospital, they always do. Yep. And then is there a scheduled time? Are they getting the train down? Are they getting the bus down? What happens?
Yeah, traditionally they get the train back down to Thurles, which works out quite nicely because you can pretty much walk from Thurles down to Semple Stadium then afterwards from the train station. So I'm still waiting just for a time that they're due back in, but usually it's kind of 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening. Then they'll go back for a hell of a party in Semple Stadium in Tom Semple's field after that. As you say, obviously some players will go along to the Children's Hospital in Crumlin, as is tradition. They'll bring the Liam McCarthy there to see the kids later on this morning. We'll see how early they get out for breakfast. We're hoping to chat to some of the players and maybe Liam Sheedy a little bit later on in the programme as well. But, you know, remarkable enough success yesterday, the biggest ever defeat for Brian Cody in an All-Ireland final, and Tipperary just put on the afterburners, particularly just after half-time after that Richie Hogan sending off. So it's amazing how Seamus Callanan and Bubbles O'Dwyer didn't score in the first half, and they were entirely held up by the Kilkenny defence. Once that space opened, once Kilkenny dropped down to 14, they ran off 2 goals and 7 points in that first 16 minutes of the second half. So we often talk about their forward line being assassins, and going into the game we were saying if Tipperary gets space and if it gets wide open, there's no way Kilkenny are winning this All-Ireland, and that's exactly the way it played out. They were lethal in that stage just after half-time. Callan and Bubbles scored 2-2 between them from 4 possessions early in the second half. So every chance they got, they took there.
Yeah, Bubbles looked a bit like Maradona. I thought there was one of the points he scored where he just kind of wandered out, flicked his hips, turned around, hit it out with the bar, and you're like, ooh, this is there's a centre of gravity there you don't often see in Irish people. Before I go now, obviously we'll be back to you as you try and rouse some people from their slumber. The Jubilee team was the Offaly team of '94 from the final against Limerick, the 5-minute final where they scored a 2-6 to win the game by 6 points, having been 5 down. My maths aren't great there.
Yes, remember, Limerick only scored 3 points in the entire second half. As an Offaly person, it's always remembered for the goals that Offaly scored, particularly the 2 quick-fire ones after Johnny Dooley's free. But remember, Limerick only scored 3 points in that second half. So it wasn't entirely down to just Offaly doing the smash and grab. No, the defence was sensational because obviously they had one of the greatest hurlers of all time. But it was great to see that team yesterday, and they all looked so well. Yeah, fantastic. I mean, I think they're a lot of the 90s teams are fairly beloved. Like Clare are going to get a hell of a reception next year. Their team that made the breakthrough from 95 are the Jubilee team next year. But that Offaly team, particularly back at home, are remembered extremely fondly because they were the breakthrough team for the best part that won a National League title, had been really good at underage level, got to a final in 94, maybe didn't play all that well, played a lot better in the final in 95 and lost. But it felt like a huge breakthrough win, first one since the 80s. And yeah, I think there's a lot of characters in that team, the likes of Johnny Pilkington, Brian Wheelahan, who were extremely fondly remembered. And it was great to see them get a big reception out in the pitch after the minor game yesterday. And the only scary part is, I remember being a kid on the terrace watching that final, and it makes you feel extremely old when you realise they're the Jubilee team. Yeah, that's been happening to me there for a couple of years, Will. Don't worry about it, you'll get used to it. All right, we'll talk to you later, Will. Thanks a million. Will down at the Burlow, and I mean, my hopes for him to be able to get us somebody alive and Compass Mentis by 9:30 are slim. Did you see many Tip fans wandering the streets of Dublin this morning? I saw 8. One Tip fan in particular had a 2-litre jug of milk in his hand, half drank, at 5:30, 5:45 this morning. You know, there's a logic to that. Well, if you're actually in the mood to actually drink that amount of milk at that point in the morning, then really what are you doing actually outside of Coppers at that point? You really are probably still in a state of mind to still be there. Is it going to come back up fairly soon? I don't know. I didn't get that far. I didn't hang around to look to see what the next step in his journey was. Yeah. Okay, here's what's coming up on the show this morning. So we've been to the Tip Hotel. We're bringing the sports pages in just a minute. John Duggan's going to give us his thoughts on yesterday, and we'll review the hurling around about 8:05 with trying to get a consensus on exactly what happened. The Richie Hogan red card is obviously
Not really that much up for debate by people in the papers today, but certainly Carl Barrett's tackle on Richie Hogan has been mentioned a good bit. And then going to talk Premier League with Stephen Kelly around about 8:35. Sports news with Phil, and we'll be back to the Tipperary Hotel around about 9:10. You can tweet us with the hashtag OTBAM. Now, we've been telling you about our trip to Abu Dhabi, and I'm going to give you some news on the far side of this. Have a look.
The Off the Ball Open tees off in Abu Dhabi this November 17th to 23rd. Join us with return flights from Dublin, 5 nights in a 4-star hotel, golf on 2 championship courses, Gala Awards dinner, Peter Lorry Golf Clinic, and a live Off the Ball roadshow, all for just €1,750. Kevin Kilban and Kieran Donaghy will be there too. The Off the Ball Open, Abu Dhabi this November. Book by August 18th to avail of this early bird offer at CassidyTravel.ie. Deposit of €250 required. Terms and conditions apply.
Yeah, the big news is that Conor Moore, aka Conor Sketches, has been added to the guest list. He's coming to play golf with us in Yaz Links and in the National. So if you like a bit of comedy, then you should definitely come, because most of the stuff that Conor does is going to be exclusive to the people who are on the trip. We might manage to get him onto the roadshow for a little while if we twist his arm a bit. But look, it's going to be a great week, so do pay your €250 deposit to Cassidy Travel today and come along with us. Now, I'm going to start this morning with the Examiner, and it's Seamie Callanan on the front. Tipping point, Premier Power to 28th All-Ireland after Hogan sees red. There's a lot of Premier puns on the front of the papers and the back pages today. Premier Class, Anthony Daly and Donald O'Grady on Sheedy's key calls. Ref Justice Brian Gavin on the big Richie Hogan call. Hurling in 2019, nominating the best moments from this year's championship. So it's basically a hurling special with obviously reflection on the Premier League stuff as well. Did you know what the red card was for when it happened, or did you have to? You could see?
Yeah, it was right in front of me, really. So I was lucky that it was in that position. If it was at the other end of the picture of Tipper shooting the other way or whatever, not a prayer would I have been able to see what happened. It was just right in front of us, so it was perfect for us to see, and you could tell why he'd been sent off. But obviously, you need to go on Twitter at half-time to actually have a replay, because these sort of things, you kind of need a replay to be 100% sure that Richie Hogan did indeed raise his elbow to the head of Carl Barrett. Like you were tweeting yesterday saying any links to any videos for certain
somebody
things.
could gift what happened, the red card, because I couldn't. You're at the game, you can't see what happened.
Not ideal.
It's an suboptimal experience as a sports fan. Also the Barrett pull on Hogan. So I didn't see that at the time. And then I think Philip Lanigan had a good tweet where he has the picture of Barrett basically clotheslining Richie Hogan. Hogan goes off and gets treatment to his blood. Here's Rory O'Connor saying the number of people at the All-Ireland hurling final turning to Twitter to find out what happened in a key incident should be a warning sign to the GAA and other sporting bodies that not showing replays is detrimental. If you're paying €90 to be there, you shouldn't be at a disadvantage. 1.7 thousand likes for that. I understand that there are some refereeing issues, right? Like the referee's going to look at the big screen and make a call on that. But there's the picture. You see, it's again even that photograph of so that's Richie Hogan in a changed jersey, because obviously he's gone off after Barrett nails him, and so he's seeking a bit of retribution. And the referee didn't do anything about the first one, so he obviously felt like he wasn't getting protected. So you take matters into your own hands. You do something stupid, and it costs your team the opportunity to compete. There's a couple of parts of this. I do feel like we're going to have to get to a point where there is live replay. Otherwise, why would people go? What's the experience? Like, especially in hurling when the ball moves so fast. Do you not need live replay?
Yeah, well, I don't think the live experience is a live experience. We all know why we're there. We're there because there's an incredible energy around these massive occasions. I don't go to Croke Park, I particularly don't pick up a terrace ticket to go and see every minute detail of every little thing that's happening in the hurling game. I'm there to see a historic moment, whatever it may be. But I do agree that it does impact the match viewing experience. You're not coming away more informed than if you are at home.
This is an interesting one here. Yeah, Croke Park refused to show replays of any decisions made during the game, yet they repeatedly left images of a deflated Richie Hogan on display. Hard to agree with the moral logic of that. Yeah, there was long, lingering shots in the second half of Richie Hogan on the subs bench, effectively. And as the game leached away from Kilkenny, they would go back, and then there'd be another goal or a point or something would happen, and then they'd go back again to see if, Richie's demeanour had changed. It did feel like it was a little bit over the top.
Did it feel like I can see it? I'm not sure about that, to be honest. Like, okay, you're as a director, you're probably looking for the story. You're looking, what is the most dramatic image I can possibly bring up at this point on the screen, and it is a guy who's naturally distraught. So I can see why that's happened. It's not. Well, it's a little bit voyeuristic, of course it is, but he's in the stadium. I mean, there's cameras there. They're not doing anything illegal by showing him and putting it up on the screen. The reason why they don't show replays is pretty obvious.
Well,
because they don't want
it's not illegal. Like, so, but Shane McEntee raised the morality.
The morality, but it's moral. But like, replays are not up on the screen because they don't want to help referees. Like, it's not kind of an invasion of any salacious.
The referees thing, I think, is a red herring, right? The fundamental thing is that they don't want people in the crowd to get angry.
And thereby, like, if there's a massive commotion in the crowd, I'm not saying that this is what I think is right. I'm just saying what the logic behind this is that if you've got a massive commotion in the crowd because they've seen Richie Hogan get sent off for what, say, Kilkenny fans believe to be wrong. If you did a straw poll of Kilkenny fans yesterday, immediately after that red card, to say was it a red card, they'd probably all say, no, it was just a yellow. Then suddenly you've got this massive wave, you've got a massive booing of the ref when he's coming off. It does change the thing. So
it was booing anyway, because I don't think anybody...
There was booing anyway. It would have been much more vociferous. It would have been much louder. It would have got quite vitriolic. Does that change then the referee in terms of giving the next free here or there? I think that's what all I'm saying is that this is the logic behind it. I'm not saying that that's the right or wrong thing. I prefer to have come away from Croke Park yesterday not having to use any of my valuable mobile data, looking at Tommy Rooney tweets about what the actual red card was at half-time.
At some point, though, you've got a decision to make. So you went to the All-Ireland final, right? You've got a ticket that went on general sale on Wednesday, yes. Right? So there will be no tickets for general sale for the football, for example, this year, obviously, because Dublin are going for 5 in a row. But there are tickets for general sale basically for every other game of the year, right? With this level of experience, will you go to semi-finals next year if it's actually a better experience watching at home?
100% will, to be honest with you, but I just personally love the live match day experience of it all and what you do actually gain from being there. But I do agree that you are missing out on the more important moments for the sake of seeing the more minute details, which is, look at Seamus Callanan's movement right in front of me. You're sacrificing what did Richie Hogan actually do in the most important moment in an All-Ireland final. So it's a big sacrifice to gain a little bit more of a tactical thing. Like I needed to concentrate pretty hard in the Sunday game last night, put it that way.
James Osborne says, boring final after player got sent off. Mark Callahan says, harsh red. I don't think it was a harsh red, really. It was the right call under the circumstances. But what definitely needs to be talked about is that Barrett needed to have been booked, at least, for his head-high challenge. And who knows, maybe that's a red card too. And then Richie Hogan maybe doesn't take the law into his own hands. And also, Carl Barrett probably doesn't nail Eoin Mullen as much because he's on a yellow card. And the game changes. Like, it's all these little imperceptible things, they change quite significantly. Paul Quirk says, Kilkenny's coaches must take some responsibility. Every club in Ireland have drills and train how to bypass the extra man. Can't believe an inter-county team are so clueless against an extra man. This is the key point, right? Kilkenny were dumb in that second half. They hurled a dumb game. And I've no idea why a team as experienced as that and a management team as experienced as that thought that they were going to get change from the Tipperary fullback line when they were down a man. So it was always 2-on-1, and Ronan Maher was one of the ones in the fullback line who was like, "Oh, you're going to lorry ball on top." Yeah, this is great. Carl Barrett got on so much ball in the first 15 minutes of the second half. I was like, there's a good chance here now if he finishes this game that they might end up just giving him man of the match because that's how this stuff happens. And like, it made no sense that Kilkenny were doing that.
No, it didn't. There was no plan B. Like, I really do think that Kilkenny have proved this summer that there is, amongst all the tactical analysis, a huge place for intensity and what you're actually going to provide when it comes to work rate. And that was the foundation of their win against Limerick. But they've also proved yesterday that there is a huge, huge place for tactics and for innovation and actually adapting to what the opposition are giving you. And they just didn't do that yesterday. It was the last thing they needed to do, especially when they had the information in front of them that this is not working. Balls are going in and none of them are sticking. And it's essentially the old adage of they just went for goals too soon. That's what it seemed to me. It was like, this is their best route, or what they had
no plan B.
But that's what I mean. Like they had perceived that was their best route of actually scoring a goal, was actually putting it in long. Now, what happens then? Is it an absent half forward line? Is there not an outlet there? What happens then when the ball is...
It's that they haven't practiced it.
It seemed that way.
The Kilkenny don't do tactics thing. Well, maybe you should do tactics. Maybe you need to be able to work the ball slowly through the lines and have a running game to fall back on. The whole thing about winning your own ball. How can Walter Walsh win his ball when there's two people marking him? He can't do it. It doesn't make any sense. Their tactic was Walter or TJ or Colin Fennelly are going to be able to go and take two players out of the game. But that doesn't make any sense. Over 35, 37 minutes. Anyway.
I'll tell you what, both semi-finalists sitting at home, losing semi-finalists sitting at home yesterday, second. They would have both won that game yesterday. Particularly, Limerick, I think you can still make the case that Limerick are the best team in the country. It would have been a hell of a lot of a better All-Ireland final, certainly, had Limerick won that semi-final, I think it's fair to say.
Okay, so the Daily Mail for you this morning. Premier class, Tip Titans are our best ever, says Sheedy. And there you go, 325 to 20 points. I think somebody said it was their biggest defeat since Offaly in 1990. I remember being in the Gaeltacht and telling a kid from Offaly that Offaly had hammered Kilkenny, and he thought I was lying because the score was so big. It's like, no, I don't believe you. There's no way we won that game that much. That's the two McGraths. Noel McGrath giving man of the match in the Sunday game last night, and John McGrath with I was like, what's he doing back in the full back line? Oh, there he's saving a Colin Fennelly goal. It was an amazing little block.
There's another moment I had to go home and watch again because
they showed that replay.
Yeah, it is.
They did, because it looked like he just had a fresh air.
Exactly. That's exactly it. I was like, there's no way. And it was one of the most important, because you talk about those little moments that can change a game right there. That would have been a significant moment had that ball hit the back of the net from Kilkenny. And maybe Richie Hogan doesn't get as angry as a result because they've got a bit more of a cushion lead. I don't know. Just the one last thing on Richie Hogan, because it's been spoken about, and obviously I'm only catching up with what Shefflin said at half-time yesterday, but obviously there's nonsense about it. It's an All-Ireland final and somebody shouldn't be sent off in an All-Ireland final. Like, should the referee not be given massive amounts of credit for making that call in an All-Ireland final?
Yeah, but so they missed Tipperary had a penalty, right? I think in the first half. Like, Richie Hogan needed protection from Carl Barrett because Barrett clotheslines him and doesn't get it. So Grant, he gets that final decision right, but he's been involved in why that has come to pass. I believe that there's like a cause and effect. Maybe that's completely wrong. Maybe Rich Hogan gets sent off anyway, irrespective of whether or not Barrett has taken him out.
I think he could be onto something there, but I think from the referee standpoint, he obviously thought that Barrett went across legally. He'd obviously made a connection with the ball or whatever. He's certainly...
I think they missed it.
Exactly, that's what I mean. Or whatever actually the connection that happened to Richie Hogan, that certainly wasn't caught. But as in this moment, in isolation, like Brian Cody saying that he couldn't have been 100% sure because he was asking his linesman, maybe he was 100% sure because he did have the conversation with his linesman and he collected all the available information to him.
That's more likely. That is more likely to be true. That he used his time well, got the evidence. Are you sure it was head height? Yes, it is. We've had a directive. Everybody knows referees have had directives about head height tackles this year. All the more reason why Carl Barrett's very lucky that he's still on the pitch at that point. But anyway.
The Irish Daily Star this morning leads with Tip's Liam team. Premier triumph, but Cody amazed at Hogan red card. Gerlach Nam, meanwhile, is saying a yellow card would have been enough. And then Inter to land Sanchez. So Inter Milan trying to sign Manchester United misfit Alexis Sanchez. The Italian giants want 30-year-old Sanchez on loan until the end of the season.
Yes.
With a €16.5 million option to make the move permanent next summer. But United would have to subsidise a bit of the $550k he is earning a week.
We could do that. If you're going to give us any money at the end of the year, we will give you some. We will pay some of it because we're going to have to pay him anyway, and he's not going to pay that much, right?
Yeah, completely. I mean, you would obviously pay Inter Milan almost to take him off your hands, but if they're going to take some of the wages as well, you get the added benefit of him just not being at the club, and United managing to perhaps take a step forward, take a step past the Alexis Sanchez era, because he represents all that Manchester United have done wrong over the past half a decade or so. So a fantastic Monday morning story for Manchester United fans, I think.
The London Times, they lead with cricket. Smith in doubt for third test. It's days like today you really miss the Ireland edition of the Times. The Times Ireland, when they had really good GAA coverage, and obviously today, unfortunately, there is no GAA coverage in the London Times.
The Mirror this morning leads with Eoin Sheedy,
that's good.
Delirious tip boss walking on air.
You have to be a certain age to get it, though.
After All Ireland glory.
Eoin Sheedy, you've got to be a certain age to get it.
Oh, I know, yeah. Well, I'm just glossing right over this. I'm not going to get lulled into a false sense of you don't know what that cultural reference is.
What is it?
Come on, and educate all those youngsters, Ger.
Do you not know, really?
I'd like to think that once you tell me, I'll be like,
okay.
It's Monday morning.
Who scored for Ireland to draw 1-1 Italian 90?
Jenny Mac, right, okay.
Who scored?
Kevin Sheedy.
Hey.
That is,
Top of the morning to you.
Is it really?
That's not, I mean, all the rest of them are Premier or something or other.
They picked another person called Sheedy.
Premier Ian.
Kevin Sheedy? Come on, it just picked another random person
just
called Sheedy.
Just because you didn't get it,
and made his first name right.
Just because you didn't get it.
I don't know, I think it's...
pretty famous. Kevin
He
Sheedy.
is extremely famous, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't have anything to do with this. It's not top of the morning to you whatsoever.
Good morning to you, Jamie Gallagher, or is it good afternoon, who has WhatsApped off the ball this morning to say he's watching OTBAM live from Bally. That's pretty nice. Oh, wow, look, there's the video playing. Yeah, there's Will. Very good. Will in Bally. That looks pretty sweet. What are you doing watching us? Should you not be having the crack with whoever you're there with? I mean, you're obviously... We're glad that you're here with us, but come on,
I'm going to move on to the Irish Independent this morning. They lead with the headline, Tips Giant Leap. They've got all their columns kind of mentioned on the back page. Martin Bretney's saying 7 weeks from the depths of Munster final despair to All-Ireland glory over old enemy. Vincent Hogan saying Sheedy's stamp isn't so much what he does as the environment he creates. And Eamon Sweeney's kind of looking forward. He's saying Tips 2020 vision to retain title will be built on mistakes of the past. Obviously the one-hit wonders that have been Tipperary over the past 40, 50 years.
Nicky English makes the point that this is the first time since the 60s that any Tip lads have had 3 All-Ireland medals at the same time. There's 4 of them, I think, who played.
Yeah, Paddy Maher, Brendan Maher, Seamus Callanan. Bonner Maher?
He didn't mention Bonner, I don't think. I have it here right in front of me, but I'd forgotten that. You'd forgotten that this Tipperary team have chronically underachieved up to this point.
I was making that point to Tommy Walsh on Friday. He disagreed with me that if Tip had lost yesterday, you would actually be talking about this team with kind of a sense of regret about what they didn't achieve in the game as opposed to what they did achieve in the game. Because I think having 3 as opposed to 2 is a significant difference.
Noel McGrath.
This is Noel McGrath, of course. This is now a significantly improved team, and we talk about the legacy of the team.
I agree.
And they've gone straight into the pantheon of all-time greats. And you look at the Noel McGrath celebrating on the back page there, and you look at the likes of Seamus Callanan, you look at the Mahers, they are modern greats now. They are in the rung just below that great Kilkenny team, and they deserve to be there. They deserve to be seen as the second best crop of players this century. Cork people might have something to say about that, but that's an argument for another day.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to having that argument at some point. Not a chance to breathe is Tipperary. Avalanche buries Kilkenny is the Irish Times. Redemption Sweet for Tip is the headline over Keith Duggan's piece. Loads of more tip stuff, and so Nicky's saying there, it's an interesting piece from Nicky, obviously, just saying that Liam Sheedy obviously put a great backroom team together, and it was a really great backroom team. Any issues that they might have had, any free taking issues, they brought in Owen Kelly and was it May? Eamon O'Shea was involved, but kind of a little bit below the radar, and then obviously not below the radar at all towards the end. You weren't quite sure when it was announced if he was coming back full time or if he was as a consultant. It was just a couple of training sessions, but there he is, at the games and all talked out. And I think it's Mike Keane is the guy writing the sideline column, and he makes the point too about. He says it was perhaps the manager's poorest All-Ireland final manning the sideline, talking about Brian Cody. And that hasn't kind of come out just yet. I guess that's probably something that, as the week goes on, the questions over whether or not Cody and... So post-match he was talking about the genuineness and the honesty of the players and how he thought the defence were great. And that's all absolutely fair enough to talk about that. But there was no style of play in the second half that gave your side a chance to win. When you went down to 14 men, you had no plan. It can't be
it's a serious black mark against Cody. Getting to the final, obviously, a huge achievement and all that, and what it was based on and where they came from. One of the interesting things is that managers always say after an All-Ireland win or any win, everybody wrote us off. Everybody above in Dublin wrote us off. And if Liam Sheedy says that, he's actually kind of right. I mean, this group of players were kind of written off from Tipperary, that we had said that they don't have the bottle to actually... I guess, to be honest, it's actually to do with kind of putting back-to-back All-Irelands with, so maybe there will be a question mark about that when we get into next year. But really, I think they've proven people wrong with this year, and Sheedy coming back, and I think it was Brendan Cummins saying in the Sunday game last night that this time last year Sheedy was like, we should be there, we deserve to be there, and they've proven that they do have a bunch of players that deserve to win All-Irelands. Back page of the Sun is everything we effing dreamed of. Captain Seamus high on emotion. You've got Pogba and Leeds. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer promised Paul Pogba will still be at Manchester United when the European transfer window closes. Real Madrid target Pogba claims a question mark remains over his future. He said that last week. They're playing Wolves tonight, and Solskjaer says they've got absolutely no concerns about the future of Paul Pogba in a Manchester United jersey. And then you've also got Lampard. Frank Lampard won his first point as Chelsea boss, but felt worse than after last week's 4-0 drubbing at Manchester United. They drew 1-1 with Leicester City yesterday, and it could have been a hell of a lot worse for Chelsea.
Stephen Kelly's going to talk to us a little bit later on about that. Tip's best ever is Liam Sheedy's verdict on the Tip team that obviously won yesterday. Dubs find a way no matter what. This is the Herald, and they have Paul Curran's column there. Competition within driving them forward, and there's a preview of Man United against Wolves tonight as well.
The Racing Post goes with world beaters. Stars of the future fight out Hot Morney as Toff Earthlight defeats Raffle Prize. The back page of the Racing Post is Hungry Wolves ready to take another bite. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff tonight at Molineux. And Blues out to 5-2 for top 4 finish. They're quite the statement from the bookies this morning, saying that Frank Lampard will not get Chelsea into the Champions League next season.
The front of the Telegraph, frightening England hail Archer and say he has changed dynamic of series. Smith out for Headingley after concussion caused by bowler. This is the second Ashes Test which ended in a draw.
And that's the story on the back of the Guardian as well. Close call, Roos missed chance, but says Archer holds key. You've also got silver lining. Asher Smith is all eyes despite coming second, and in the pink, indeed he rises high to spoil Lampard's homecoming.
Alright, it's 8:01 this morning. We'll bring you the Irish news before we go here. Sheedy returns Tip to the top. That's a picture of the full-time whistle and O'Neill stepping away from Tyrone's setup. So that's interesting. Stephen O'Neill has decided to step away from Mickey Hart's setup, or I don't know if I don't know if it's his decision or if it's a mutual decision or what it was. So we'll read that story and bring you a bit more detail on it in a couple of minutes' time. Yeah, 8:02 now this morning. You're watching OTB AM, or else perhaps you're listening to us on the Go Loud app, which is the best place to get OTB Sports Radio, which is non-stop sports radio in your earballs whenever and wherever you want it. This is the Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball. We're back talking the Ireland Hurling final with John Duggan. Reaction from the Tipperary camp after these.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
300 clubs getting vital cash funding. Over 450 schools and juvenile teams supported nationwide. More than 11,000 jerseys, balls and equipment donated. And record-breaking crowds at the last 3 TG Cahir All-Ireland finals. Those are serious numbers. That is serious support. Lidl, proudly supporting ladies Gaelic football.
OTB AM.
Liam Sheedy, you're grinning from ear to ear, and sure, why wouldn't you be?
Yeah, look, it's a special day, you know. All-Ireland final day is the big day in all our GA calendars from a hurling perspective, so to have come here today and have won, you know, it's really, really pleasing. I guess, you know, we were supposed when we started back in November, that was the dream, but we're a long ways away from it, and you know, we had a bit of a blip in the road in the end of June, and probably, you know, a lot of questions asked of us in the group, and you know, thankfully today we sit here having come up with the answers in the All-Ireland series. So look, just thrilled. It was an outstanding victory, and we're just absolutely thrilled.
I was watching you on the sideline, 68 minutes, 69 minutes, 70 minutes. You were still roaring. It's like it didn't matter if you were that much in the lead. You weren't letting go until that last whistle was blown.
Well, you know, I think you know this game of hurling can change in a puck of a ball. You know, one goal can make all the difference. So you know, we felt that, you know, we just needed to make sure we retained our composure. Some of the times, you know, we wasted ball and didn't take the right option, and we set ourselves very high standards. But like, you know, when they did get the options and when they did take the right ones, you know, we were very, very impressive. And look, we were sucking for air there in that first half when they were 5 points up, and the goal was a massive score by Niall O'Meara. But look, overall, just thrilled for the group. I mean, the effort they've given since November has been just phenomenal, and you know, as I said, whether we won or we lost today, I couldn't have asked for any more of the lads, and as I said, thankfully we came out the right side of the result.
I'm just looking at you, and obviously you've the big grin on you, but you also look kind of, I suppose, for the want of a better phrase, emotionally exhausted.
Yeah, I am. I'm smashed, to be honest with you. That's not a word of a lie. You know, there's a lot of energy has to be expelled by me, you know, in terms of the pre-match, in terms of the half-time, and in terms of the overall game. So, you know, there's a huge amount of effort goes in from everyone. But look, I'm in the lucky position. This day was never going to be about me. It's about a wonderful background team that are just the best in the country, and I also have outstanding players that went across the white lines. They can do wonderful things with the hurling ball. So, as I said, we're absolutely thrilled tonight.
And I think something people often forget about is you've a wonderful backroom team. You have this wonderful team of players that grouped together and did what they've done. But you also have like friends and family who give you this invisible support that a lot of time we don't see and hear about.
Yeah, look, I got 2 cards this morning. I got 2 cards this morning from my daughters and my wife. So like, you know, that really is all about family. At the end of the day, you can't do these jobs unless you get the time and the energy and the support. So thankfully, I get that.
Yeah, it's Liam Sheedy speaking with Maura Trassa in the immediate aftermath of the game, sounding kind of spent.
Completely, and it's spent after not just that day that was, but also after months and months and months of, I'd imagine, just exhausting commitment, and the highs and the lows of it all, the Munster final to the semi-final, like two of the most incredible blots on the storyline that we have. Like the fact that they were swept aside in that Munster final, that there was nothing Tipperary could do to stop Limerick that day, and you thought to themselves, well, God, sometimes these fairy tale stories or these potential fairy tale stories end in just real disappointment. And that was the real negative side, negative thought in my head, was that Liam Sheedy's come back and he can't even stop this Limerick side.
Didn't Laois give them a game? And
then Laois gave them a game, and they didn't look impressive in that game whatsoever. And then you thought it was curtains for them against Wexford, and again you're having those thoughts saying, well, you know, it's a fairy tale for Wexford to get to the All-Ireland final, but the Liam Sheedy story is not going to have its happy ending.
Laois had a man sent off as well, if memory serves, didn't they?
Yes, there was a bit of a joke recall, wasn't it?
I can't remember the specific details of it, but definitely...
Yeah, Brennan was not happy afterwards.
They definitely played with a full house against 14. I wonder, did Laois make a better fist of playing with 14 men? Certainly, what did they lose by in the end? Probably was the same. They lost by 1-7. So 10 points. Actually, they did better.
They did better.
Now, in fairness, I don't think Tip were running the score up the way they were trying to run the score up yesterday. Philip Lanigan on Twitter at Lano10 has the Sky Plus footage of Carl Barrett where he splits Richie Hogan's nose, and the referee is like running over in the direction of them and sees the whole thing. The angle is actually perfect, so you get to see exactly what happened. And I look. I think Richie Hogan should have been sent off, and I don't think anybody is really going to debate that call too much. I mean, certainly you can make the case that the hurling men are making and that the Kilkenny people are making, that it's a wet day and blah, 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 but I don't really hold much truck with that. No. I do hold truck with the fact that, like, if players aren't being looked after, if the law is not being applied, then you can feel hard done by the fact that you had the law applied to you but it wasn't applied to everybody else. That changes games. That changes the atmosphere. That kind of... can be behind a rush of blood to the head.
I think there's definitely logic in that argument. I think it's also fair to say that Richie Hogan goes to nail him for sure, but he doesn't actually go to get him in the head. Like, that's a last minute reaction. The ideal situation for Richie Hogan in that scenario is to connect shoulder to shoulder, I'd imagine, with Carl Barrett and absolutely nail him out over the sideline. That was his plan. And just at the last second, once you go in like that, once you go in that powerfully to hit someone, there's always a danger that you might cause a bit of damage and you might commit a serious foul, and that's exactly what happens.
Barrett moves quickly, and that's the end of the game, unfortunately, at that point. Right, we're going to be getting live reaction from the Tipperary Team Hotel just before 9 o'clock this morning, but up next we're going to chat through some of the stories of the final with John Duggan. First, here's Tommy Walsh on Seamus Callanan, 8 minutes past 8 this morning.
Seamus Callanan, we've spoken to the Hurling Show a few times this year about just his different role this year. Sheedy has him working very hard. Even though first half he wasn't getting ball and wasn't getting scores, he was there in that second half to be both the finisher and also the provider, crucially, for Bubbles' goal as well. What have you made of the way he's played in 2019?
Yeah, I thought it was Sheedy stamped all over it. Named him captain, put him on the freeze, but also the freeze weren't going well for Callanan early in the league. Took him off the freeze, gave him to Jason Ford. Callanan didn't take the hump. He knew Sheedy was the right man. He knew he had the best interest of the team at heart, Sheedy. And give him the captaincy. Callanan is a leader. Like he strives in that sort of a role. And we saw that a couple of years ago when he was in and out of the team. But Eoin came in. Eamon O'Shea came in and really gave him belief, and since that he has never really looked back. And Sheedy came in this year then and gave him even more belief. But I'd say it was said to him at the start of the year, I don't care about your scores, I want you leading this attack with your work rate, because if someone sees your top player doing it, then everyone else kind of copies. We're like copycats. And Callanan was definitely the leader from day one. Go back to November.
Yeah, it's Tommy Walsh yesterday speaking with Will at full time. John Duggan is here. John, you're at the game?
Yes, Ger, and good morning. Ger, you and I look like we're both off the court now, and you look like you've just come in from refereeing an NFL game.
Or coppers.
Either or, same thing.
One of these could be true.
Flags everywhere. There's a joke to be made here somewhere with James Owens and refereeing, but you know, it's too Monday for me to make it, basically.
You're on his side, basically. You're part of his union.
I am the referees union out in full
Referees Development Committee. Yes.
How was your experience?
Great. So, look, any experience of a hurling final is great, but I was drenched.
Were you? Yeah.
Yeah, I got absolutely soaked in the first half, but I didn't. Like, a lot of people around me actually went back up to get their coffee or their hot dog or whatever. But I grinned and bared it, and I was on the lower Cusack side, so I saw a lot of normal grass plays. I saw a really good goal from Alamar in the first half. Felt Tipperary were turning the screw. Didn't see, from my vantage point, the sending off at all.
No,
because it's the other end of the pitch.
Where do you stand on the replays and no replays in the stadium?
I would like to see them. I think, as you said, they're showing Richie Hogan how many times, and I had to go and, like, I'm up at 4 o'clock this morning. I'm watching the Sunday game. I didn't want to watch the game back because I generally inhale the game myself, would make notes of it, and then I don't want to see 25 people talking about it. But I had to go and watch it because I needed to see the incident.
Yeah.
So I would prefer to see it. Like, the fans are going to get. The fans can't come onto the pitch, so I would like to see it.
And maybe we need to trust the fans a bit more.
Yeah.
Like, maybe there will be stewarding involved, and everybody will be told to shut up and sit down, and we'll all move on and we'll get on with it. And this is how we become an advanced sports culture where we understand that decisions are going to be made. Maybe they could explain the decisions. Maybe they could referee the mic and the referee up, and you could hear him say, "It's a head-high tackle. The directives are very clear. You all know it. Head high, gotta go, red card." That's it.
In rugby, they have those ref radios, don't they? Yeah. Everybody buys, and they're great. I'm sure they're lucrative.
Profitable,
lucrative. Also, it would also add a lot to the water coolers, wouldn't it? Or the hostelries or the taverns, and people are just. Did you see that on the screen and talk about it for the rest of the night?
Well, it would make a more educated fan base. First of all, like, you'd have more information actually leaving Croke Park.
Tommy tweeted the video, which I'm not even sure if that's legal, but anyway, he did, and like everybody around me was like watching it to see.
Yeah.
even the TV angle wasn't that good. RTE put up a gif of it, and actually you couldn't tell, you couldn't see the elbow from it. You needed the slow motion replay. So in fairness to the linesman who spotted the elbow to the face, fair play, because it was lightning quick.
It's a big call, and it's a correct one, and it's an amazing call. It's a ballsy call in an All-Ireland final. I think the Sheffield analysis actually points to how good a decision this actually was from the officiating team.
What did you think of the red card?
Justified, given the rules. The rules are that they got stricter on challenges to the head. Willie Barrett and his team, the referees development committee, Tony Kelly got sent off earlier in the year for something similar, and it's the rules, and James Owens applied the rules. And is Richie Hogan a dirty player? No. But was it a sending off? Yes. Now, I think he's a little bit unfortunate. I think Cathal Barrett kind of moved and he caught him, but he still caught him with the elbow, and it's unfortunate, but it by the letter of the law, it is a sending off.
Yeah, it did ruin the game.
Ruin the game.
I'm not buying the Tipperary were absolutely dominant at that point because they'd scored the goal. Like, they were creating some chances, but the goal came against the run of play.
I think they would have won the game, though. I felt that they were like you saw how toothless. I just generally felt that most of Kilkenny's scores in the first half were frees. Weren't they?
Can I just talk about that for a second, right? 6 of their first 8 points were frees, I think. I might be wrong about that, but close enough to it. Because Tipperary were persistently fouling, and no sign of a card. No sign of a card at all. Kilkenny were actually running at and creating space, and their forward movement was excellent, I thought, at that point. Bear in mind, Edgin was sick, and they probably shouldn't have risked him. And tip, foul, all kind of in the scoring zone where one more pass.
Black card for Hurling?
Goal. Like, or just a yellow card for the next, lads, next foul's, it's persistent fouling on part of the team. Don't care who it is, next foul's a yellow card. Because like something has to be done about that, right?
Well, like, if you talk about bringing the law into your own hands, like, one thing I actually noticed, because I think you're right, was TJ just not getting that frustrated about it. I was like, if I'm in TJ's boots there, what was it, probably his third or fourth free, just running through the middle, and just on the edge of the square he gets fouled.
Yeah.
If I'm in that position, I'm furious with the referee for either not taking a card out or for allowing this to happen. Like, it was very unusual that Kilkenny weren't up in arms at that point, maybe even exaggerating how angry they were to ensure that this doesn't happen again, because they can tear through them again, and next time there might be a card, or there might be some more of a punitive kind of thing from the referee.
Because like when Niall O'Mara's setting off on his hazy mazy run, one of the tip lads would just pull him down. Like, there's no black card, I'm not going to get yellow card for this, whatever. Like, there would, and in fairness, Kilkenny needs to accept some responsibility for that too. But like, it felt like, you know, the great referees are supposed to let the game flow in an All-Ireland final. We're supposed to let the two teams go at it, and that happened in the World Cup. And then Neymar had his back broken, and it's happened in an All-Ireland final. And Richie Hogan, like one of the best hurlers of his generation, gets red carded and ends up, now everybody says he has cost Kilkenny the All-Ireland, and I think that's an unfair, reductive analysis of what happened.
So he shouldn't have been sent off?
No, he should have been sent off, but I do think that the referee actually bears a portion of responsibility for
not being consistent in his application of the rules throughout the game. Okay. I do feel, if he had not been sent off, I still would have felt that Tipperary had the better firepower. I think they're just a better team than Kilkenny at the moment. I don't think Kilkenny are in the top 2 teams in the country.
I would agree, right? But I'd like to see the game.
You'd like to see 15-15. You'd like to see how it would have...
Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Let's see where their nous takes them. Let's see where just a little bit of panic sets in. And let's see what happens at that point.
We'll see one of the worst players possible to get sent off as well from Kilkenny's perspective. I know he wasn't great up until that point, but in terms of what he actually would have brought...
Look what this happened in the second half. Second half. I couldn't believe what I was seeing in the second half. First of all, Kilkenny didn't take any risks. They need to take some risks. And they didn't take any risks at all. And then they're making heroes out of the Tipperary full-back line. But lobbing, high balls in, and they're just clearing meat and drink, clearing it down. And also, I think it was for Barry Heffernan. And also, clever use of the ball. Barry Heffernan set up Callanan to set up Bubbles down for that third goal. So,
Limerick, watching that?
Oh, they'd be kicking them. They'd be just kicking themselves. I think Limerick are there. They're best. Tipperary is the best teams in the country. I do think amateur players can't sustain it the way they do sustain it in the round robin. So I think Tipperary had a blinding start to the season. Then they had a dip, but I think the dip is understandable, that they did dip in the Munster final, because you can't expect teams to be at their peak all throughout, as Limerick were not last year. I think they only finished third in Munster. And then Tipperary came again with the run against Wexford in the semi, and then the run again in the final. But I'd love to have seen a Limerick, no disrespect to Kilkenny, but I'd love to have seen a Limerick-Tipperary final, because I do think they're the best 2 teams in the country, and I do think Limerick would have tested Tipperary.
I think Wexford must have been thinking, we know how to beat this team. Like, a man up, 5 points up. They left. They will always regret this year.
They will, but are just Tipperary just a better quality team? Look at the bench. Like Liam Sheedy brought it. Like the bench that I didn't really see earlier in the championship really made an impact. Willie Connors, Mark Keogh,
Jake Morris.
Jar Brown's going to be a big hurler. And I think that Liam has got everything right. He's got his backroom team right. He's got his subs right. McGrath moving to midfield was a masterstroke. I think they're deserving winners, but I do think Limerick did leave it behind them a bit this year. Also, poor final. Last year was a poor final, I thought. We're waiting for a good final. Galway-Waterford, probably the last reasonably decent final I've seen.
I thought last year was all right. No,
last year was sluggish now.
It wasn't as bad as this. This is definitely one of the worst.
Yeah, but that's because of the sending off, isn't it? And also, Kilkenny didn't do great in their puckouts. Tipperary did. But can Tipperary go back to back? They haven't since '65.
Well, there's certainly plenty of narrative to get our teeth stuck into. John, good stuff. Thanks very much for that. It is 18 minutes past 8 this morning. We're back talking hurling before 9 with Will O'Callaghan and live reaction from the Tip players. Football next with Stephen Kelly. First, here's Gary Breen, who was live at Stamford Bridge for Off the Ball yesterday afternoon, talking about his top 4 contenders.
A lot of people were tipping Chelsea to be the side out of the sides that won the Champions League places last season to be the one that dropped out of the top 4 this time, to be the most vulnerable one. If that is the case, who do you see replacing them? And let's make some knee-jerk reactions in the back of two weekends of the new Premier League season. On the evidence that we've seen, they won't pick up a huge amount of points in the coming weeks. Is it Arsenal maybe that you see as the side that most likely to step into that top 4?
The thing about Arsenal is you're obviously looking at the signings they've made, and the problem you have is that you just can't trust Arsenal. They break your heart. I like Emery as a manager. I think he's a problem solver. I think he's made that squad of players more accountable than they've ever been. Fitness levels have to be right. He's not scared to drop anyone. But if you're looking at the team most likely to threaten it, you're probably saying United at this moment in time. And listen, we've seen United. I've seen a lot of them over the pre-season. Listen, a buoyant 4-0 win. They'll be delighted with themselves. But they're not without their issues in midfield also. They're a counter-attacking team more than anything now. But out of possession, they don't impact themselves on the game in a way that you normally associate with top United teams. So, listen, there's a lot to play for. It's early on in the Premier League, but it's exciting.
Yeah, so that's Gary Breen speaking with Dave yesterday at Stamford Bridge after the 1-1 draw. Stephen Kelly's with us this morning. You were doing Reading Cardiff yesterday,
Yes, I did Reading Cardiff. Yeah, it was a good game actually. Important for Reading to get a few points on the board after the last couple of seasons, and the start of this campaign wasn't great for them, but they looked impressive. The new signing, Puskas, came up with a fantastic couple of goals. So,
what are Cardiff like at the moment?
I expected Cardiff to do okay this season, really, realistically, because Neil Warnock always has his teams really well organised and set up, and I didn't expect them to have as much as a hangover as, say, the likes of Huddersfield, but they were totally off the pace yesterday. They started off the first 15 minutes well, but after that, they just disintegrated really. Reading got on the ball, played much better football, and it could have been 5 or 6. They missed a 1-on-1 penalty. There was a lot of opportunities that they should have scored, and Cardiff just looked way off the pace.
Let's talk about Arsenal first, just because Gary Breen brought it up there. He says that he thinks that they have a manager who's made the team accountable. It's obviously something that he feels is important, that sense that no one's going to be allowed to drift through seasons the way it certainly seemed at the end of the Wenger era, and even last year the squad wasn't strong enough, where players weren't playing well, that they were still getting picked. Do they have enough strength and depth at the moment to be able to not have players coasting?
They've definitely improved their squad in comparison to what they've had over the last few seasons, and their attacking threat is some of the best around at the moment. He is trying to make them accountable, and you can see with the likes of Ozil last season, he played for a good bit, but then it got to the point where he just decided, I'm not going to drop on. And to do that to the highest paid player of the club was a big statement from him last year, to show that he, regardless of what was going on behind the scenes, he was the one that was picking the team and making decisions. So for them, he seems like a very good manager. He knows what he wants, and he's gradually trying to build a team of that can do what he wants them to do. It's just whether this season's going to be the one that they can achieve it. Pepe came on and he looked like he's got a lot about him. The little turn I saw it's amazing turn, middle of the pitch, through the player's legs, opened up his legs, and you're just thinking this guy's could have goals in him as well. Aubameyang, first game of the season, his movement off the ball was amazing again over the weekend. So I just think they do have the makings of what could be a very good attacking threat. Defensively, it's whether they can hold out. But the game to win the way they did 2-1 and hold on, sometimes they'd be bullied and pushed over, and they'd end up losing that game or drawing it. So I think that is a step forward for them.
The key part of the performance obviously was Danny Ceballos on his debut, man of the match, unbelievable, with 2 assists. And something that people spoke about when it came to Danny Ceballos before he came to Arsenal was not assists. It was not playing in the 10 role. And I'm not sure, is that down to Real Madrid and a lack of a system that allows him to thrive there, or what it is, or has Unai Emery just stumbled upon his best position?
I think Emery would have had a good look at him over pre-season and tried to discover where he was going to fit into his plans. And again, if you're playing at Real Madrid, the chances of getting a number 10 role are probably slim unless you're the best player in the world. So they would have been slim enough for him in that position at Real Madrid. So when he came to Arsenal, his pre-season would have dictated how he was going to play and how Emery would have seen how he's going to fit into his plans. But yesterday it was a standout performance. He was excellent in all areas, but his assists were fantastic. So it's, again, if someone like that can do that on a regular for them and create goals for those attacking players that they have in abundance at the moment, then they'd be in a good position.
Yeah, for sure. Like, 'cause the logic was that he'd be part of a midfield 3, which if you look at it that way, he really was, but kind of more advanced, I guess. Like, when you're looking at that, is it a situation where obviously you're going to have Pepe on the right? Would you go for Lacazette or Aubameyang through the middle? Because I think when it comes to goal scoring number 9s, Aubameyang's as good as anybody else in the league, but perhaps for team cohesion, do you have to put Lacazette more central?
I think you have to play Aubameyang. I just because his goals, if you want to do well in this league and you want to achieve, you have to have someone that's going to get you 20 plus goals, and Aubameyang will get them that regardless. And
can you get that from either side of the central striker?
He probably can, but he's probably better up the middle because he will play to either centre back, so he'll go off whichever he feels he is more of a opportunity to make runs and create space for himself, and so he'll drift in between both sides. It is a hard call because Lacazette's got goal in well, probably not as consistently as Aubameyang. It's going to be a tough call for the manager, but you feel that with what they have, there is much more of a competition in those areas, and their goal scoring ability is without doubt.
The other thing I just wanted to ask you about with Arsenal was obviously David Luiz's debut at the weekend. Picked up a booking. Arsenal conceded poor enough goal. Burnley had chances to perhaps equalise. Like, it was, to me, a classic Arsenal performance in a way, even though they got the win in the end. And David Luiz is the perfect embodiment of classic Arsenal, I think. Yeah,
it was shaky, and towards the end they were being put under pressure, but they still withstood it a bit because Burnley do offer a much more physical strike force than what most teams in the Premier League do. They get in their faces, they harass, they chase balls, and David Luiz, it wasn't an amazing performance for him, but it was his first game for them, and I think he stood up well to the task. They towards the last few minutes, with it being 2-1, there was always going to be opportunities there, Burnley putting the ball into the box and causing problems, but Arsenal did stand up to it, and it's only the second game of the season, so it's very hard to judge them already. But you think, based on what they would have done before, sometimes Burnley, you think of Burnley or Stoke back in the day would have come back and maybe got a draw from that game, they would have crumbled. So for them to hold on to the win and have 6 points from the first 2 games, and they weren't 2 easy games. When you look on paper, you think Newcastle, Burnley, great. Any top 4 side would be delighted to have them too because they think it's 6 points, but realistically, they're difficult matches to get points out because those teams are usually well organised. Newcastle at home are unpredictable. You don't know how they're going to turn up. Burnley are always consistent and hard to beat. So for Arsenal and the way they've been known for a little bit kind of sheepish and not they wilt slightly, I think it's been two good wins for them.
Would you be concerned about Jeff Hendrick not getting any game time at this stage of the season?
Yeah, very concerned. It's a long season. There's only 2 games in, so there's an opportunity for him to play at some point. But what we need from our Irish players is to be playing every week. And Robbie, I'm not sure if Robbie's injured or not, but Robbie's not been involved at all, and Jeff not playing. You see, James McCarthy has moved to try and get game time, which is important. But for Ireland and for his own career, he needs to be playing on a regular basis, chipping in with assists and goals, because that's the type of midfielder we all want him to be and what he's capable of being. So from now 2 games in, it's not the end of the world. It is only 2 games, so there's a lot more football to play. But you'd like to hopefully you get more of a chance.
I think Robbie Brady has been carrying a rib injury, but he was expected back for the first game of the season, and wasn't. Sorry, he wasn't expected back for the first game of the season, but he obviously was named in the Ireland squad, the big squad. So we'll have to wait and see.
The one last takeaway from Arsenal Burnley was possibly the best tweet of all time at Tom Victor. Of course, you mentioned Nicolas Pepe making Ben Mee look a little bit foolish. He nutmegged him, and Tom Victor tweeted, they need to rename Nicolas Pepe Valerie for the way he made a fool out of me, which was absolutely fantastic and probably the best thing I've seen all weekend. We should probably talk about Manchester City Spurs. Biggest game of the weekend. There was kind of like a red wedding vibe to the manner in which it happened, with Aguero and Pep hugging each other in the sideline, Gabriel Jesus celebrating, and then just a perfectly delayed reaction to what happened. What was your take on all that and the VAR decision?
As rules go, the VAR decision was right. Any handball that results in a goal, any accidental handball that results in a goal, the goal should be disallowed. So VAR was correct and it was right, but for the 65,000 people in the stand that couldn't see what happened and were bewildered by what was going on, it must have been extremely frustrating to watch. For me, Tottenham getting the result was great, but it's disappointing that it's always going to come back to this. It's going to have to be explained after every weekend. There's going to be a decision that has to be explained, and people are going to be talking about it. So this is going to probably overshadow all the good football that went on, because this is what's going to be talked about more. And it's the right thing to do to have VAR involved, because it will eliminate any, I suppose, errors from the referee's point of view. But it's the not knowing, and not everybody would have known that rule, and people watching, unless you were watching on TV, you wouldn't be able to be explained to you or talked about, and you wouldn't see what happened. So from that sense, it's a bit disappointing.
But it's not VAR's fault, obviously.
No.
It's the thing. That got it spot on.
Yeah, it got it absolutely spot on. But it's whether that rule should stand. And when you look at it, I think that goal should stand. I think there's no intent there whatsoever. He's not even looking at the ball. His arm's not out past his body. I remember when we went to the Euros in 2012, there was a big discussion about your arm being more than 20 centimetres away from your body, so your arms had to be out for anything beside it. His arm was beside the side, and I know it's still his arm, but that could easily have hit his ribs or his hip and gone to him, because they're almost in the same position. So you're thinking that should not stand. But VAR got it right. It's whether the handball rule needs to be re-looked at, but that's not going to happen this season because we're already on their way.
The game was absolutely insane. 30 shots to 3. It is one of the most remarkable points that Spurs will get this season. And is there any case you can make to the fact that they deserved a point?
Not really. Not really. I think going into the game, with the way City started the first game of the season, you kind of felt this is going to be a tough ask for Tottenham to get anything up there. City, as we said before, they're just a juggernaut. They go from strength to strength, and the way they play, the purpose, De Bruyne at 2 assists again, Sterling scoring, they're just relentless. So you went thinking, I was hopeful that Tottenham would get a result, but I wasn't too sure that was going to happen. So for them to come out with a draw on the back of the way the game went, with the shots that City had, Luiz has come up with a couple of good saves, and then for them to score a couple of goals up there, which is great for them. Lamela chipping in, who started the season well last year, but faded as we got further into it, and hopefully he can. I think, have a longer spell in the team and longer spell creating goals and scoring goals, because he is a very good player. It's just he's so up and down. You don't know how well he's going to perform. But for Tottenham, unbelievable result. Deservedly, not really, but they'll take it.
James Ducker is making a point in the newspaper this morning that Manchester United's 9-0 win over Ipswich is in threat as the record as the biggest win in Premier League this season, that Manchester City are going to score 10 goals in a game this season.
Yeah, you can see it. You can absolutely see it. If they get a team that is totally off the pace or not up to it, City are so relentless. The FA Cup final last year, the last game of the season for them, that made me feel wow, because when you see how ruthless they were in that game and they were still going for it towards the end, they still wanted more, and I felt sorry for Watford. I really felt sorry for them. It was the biggest game in the club's history for a long, long time, and City just absolutely swatted them away, and this wasn't through lack of effort through Watford. So you feel if a team is not at the races, the City could absolutely annihilate them.
I mean, obviously Watford haven't yet got a point this season, but they're not rubbish.
Last season was arguably one of their best seasons they've had, so they were a good side. They're improving. They're looking to be pushing towards the top half of the table, the top 6 spot, which is what their manifesto is trying to set out to do. So they were a good side, but the way City dealt with them on a big occasion was outstanding, and you kind of feel it. They've continued on.
So just to tease us out about City though, they have drawn that game 2-2, even though they're the clearly superior footballing team and they've had all the possession. And in the Champions League, they've gone out in the last 2 seasons, even though they've been the superior team, and they've had all the possession and they've conceded these goals. So there's a kink in whatever matrix Pep Guardiola has built to the point where they're not infallible, even though they look so amazing.
The only part of the pitch that you would possibly question City is defensively. You would think that they do give you a slight opportunity. I'm not saying they're bad defenders, but they don't. Vincent Kompany at his peak, they don't have that anymore. They don't have, Laporta's very good and they've got good options. They play well. Zinchenko left back, he's a good left back, but they're not. You can get chances from them, which is. They always feel that they can score more goals. That's the problem with City. They're almost like, if you get one, they feel they can get 2 or 3. So going forward is not an issue. But defensively, if they will give you an opportunity, and if you can get a goal against them, then you're in a chance if you can stay defensively solid. But it's keeping their front few out is almost an impossible task.
He hasn't been amazing at signing defenders, really.
No.
Kyle Walker is good, right?
Well, Kyle Walker is exactly what he wanted in a fullback. Electric pace, up and down the pitch. But Kyle Walker was not known for his defensive abilities. His pace gets him out of a lot of situations because he is so quick.
Which is grand in the Premier League when you're playing Burnley and Norwich and Watford. But when you go to the Champions League, granted, okay, so last season they went out against another Premier League team, but you're going to get caught out over a period of time.
Yeah, well, they got even the weekend, the first goal in Mora, it was full credit to Mora. It was a great spring, early jump got there. But Mora is, I don't know, 5-something. Kyle Walker looks about 6 foot. When balls are coming to the box like that, your defenders should be attacking it, and you should feel confident that they're going to win everything, and especially if they're marking a player who's small. Don't get me wrong, it happens sometimes. But if Kyle Walker had stuck to his task and gone and defended that properly, they wouldn't have scored. And it was one of the smallest players in the pitch that scored a header after just being, introduced into the pitch. So from that point of view, that's something that they don't do. But they're so focused on going forward and playing out that defensively they kind of feel like they have so much of the ball, almost like it's doesn't have to, it'll take care of itself, if you know what I mean.
Win a Champions League for me and come back to me and tell me that, Pep. Come on.
I don't think that was actually mentioned enough in commentary, to be honest with you. The fact that Walker got beaten by Lucas Moura.
Absolutely.
If you talk about City defensively, granted, I know you've already said that it's not a massive issue, but it is an issue if you had to pick one. Liverpool are going through something similar at the moment. How worried would you be?
Well, Liverpool, all the good they did last year, but everybody knew Liverpool's front three are outstanding. They can score goals at will, and at some point in every game, one of those front three will get a goal for you. The issues they were resolving was the back four and the goalkeeper, which they did last season. Van Dijk was Colossus, could probably win the Ballon d'Or. Alisson, most clean sheets in the season. So for them this season to be talking about having defensive frailties when they were probably the best back four in the league last season is crazy, because nothing's changed. The goalkeeper's been injured fine, and he is a huge part of it. And Adrian, who came in over the weekend, he absolutely gifted a goal away, and I know Klopp was defending him, but it was just, I do not know what he was thinking. He's probably been asked to do something he's not normally asked to do, but
so you must have been in a team where that's happened before, where a goalkeeper's done something stupid like that, right?
Yeah.
Do you just put it down to brain fart, or do you go, this guy,
I think I feel for him, there was so much on the far side of the pitch. He's tried to put a ball back into an area that was the only area that was being pressurised by Southampton. The only part that was being pressurised by Southampton was the left side. So he's tried to reverse the ball back into an area where the balls come from and where they're actually closing down. Whereas it's not like he didn't have time. He could have turned his body out and had Alexander-Arnold to the right, Matip, and could have actually just passed the ball into space. Didn't even have to find anybody, and they would have been clear danger. So
it's actually worse than a brain fart. It's not fully understanding exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe being asked,
that causes concern.
Yeah,
deeper.
Because if he's been asked to do something that, again, he's not as comfortable with, which is what Liverpool want. Alisson gets on the ball and distributes really well and is comfortable with it, and he takes risks, don't get me wrong, and with his first few games everybody's like, he was trying to chop inside people and take people on sometimes, but he turned out to be one of the best signings of the season. It's strange for us to be talking this early on about Liverpool and how that they've given chances away, but in every game they've given chances. They haven't had a clean sheet, and against opposition that even Norwich, who scored a goal against them first game of the season, they gave them chances.
What is Liverpool's best midfield? He's used three different three-man combinations in 4 games.
I'm actually not sure yet. I'm really not sure, because on the basis of last season, you would think Henderson came to his own towards the end, and I wouldn't be the greatest fan of Henderson, but I think as the season went on and they got to the Champions League final, he seemed to be becoming very important to him. I know he's the club captain, but I would have thought those people in there were better than him. But last season, he really kind of staked his claim as being someone that's just starting there. Wijnaldum, again, I think he's one that probably has to play. He offers a lot going forward, runs the ball. He's defensively minded as well, so he can get around the pitch. The other one, that's the space that's up for grabs for me. I'm not too sure. Keita looks like a very good player, but has suffered from injuries a bit, and he hasn't had enough game time to really have cemented his place. Milner, I think, will be a bit part player. I don't think he's going to play regularly, and he will play full back sometimes and play centre midfield. So it's hard to kind of know which one he's going to settle on. And again, it's still early on the season. They're still working out some kinks, and they're on the back of what was such a successful campaign last year. They have a manager that knows what he wants, and he will be able to identify areas that have not been that good, and he'll be working on training and trying to make sure that they get back to the levels that they were at last season. But they haven't reached them yet, even though they're free flow scoring. But defensively, that's when they have to be a bit more solid. Like if they could get and go like Kante, I think that would solve all their problems.
They're 2 points clear of Man City, though, and we all know that's a big lead in the title race when it comes to City versus Liverpool. Just to go back to Spurs to kind of round out the top 4 talk, a lot of people thought that Spurs were genuine title contenders this year. After that performance where you get battered so spectacularly, can you put that down to one game and as a club move on? Go, that's okay, let's chisel the points out, let's stay on their coattails, and we'll get better as the season goes on?
Yeah, I would say Tottenham being Tottenham and knowing the club very well, that being title contenders won't sit well with them, because I don't think that label is going to be good for them. But going to Man City, and regardless of how Man City played and the VAR result, coming away with a 2-2 draw, even if you didn't perform that well, that's a sign of a good team. Teams that can edge out results and come away with something at the end of a match when they haven't played that well. Tottenham played okay, but City were just so dominant. So as Tottenham go on, if they can performances against other teams and beat the likes of Manchester United, which is going to be important, Chelsea, City is the team that they're going to be fighting with, and they're going to have to take points off, which they already have. But it's the other teams around them that they need to be consistent and be comfortable at beating, that's going to tell whether or not they're title contenders.
Yeah, so you wouldn't be too concerned by the fact that the game flow was so one-sided?
No, not the way that Man City, and not the way City have come out of the traps this season. City have pretty much got a very similar team to what they had last year, so it was easy for them to just... Tottenham have changed things a little bit. They've brought in a few new players. I know majority of them was the same, but there's still been a little bit of time to knit in, and it's only the second game of the season, so you think you give them a little bit of leeway. But to come away with 1-1 draw from Man City is a great result for them, and they'd be delighted with
they'll go and think of almost a bit of a smash and grab. They've come away thinking that we're lucky, but it's still a point on the board.
Man United obviously fairly ebullient after the 4-0 win on the opening day of the season for them. They're up against a Wolves side who've had their number a little bit over the last 18 months, and tonight at Wolves, this is where we get to kind of see if the 4-0 wasn't really 4-0, and if Solskjaer's fitness regime and all the stuff that he's talked about have had any impact. I think that if you were to offer Solskjaer a draw now, he'd probably take it.
Based on last season, they take it, and based on how they've done against Wolves in the past, they'd probably take a draw. But if you're Manchester United and you're Solskjaer and you're looking for your team to be in the top 4 and to make some serious steps in the way they were last year, I know Wolves are a very good side, but they still got to be thinking we've got to go to the Molineux and win. I know Wolves are extremely good. Last season they've done so well, and I think this season you can see them being the same, if not better. The system they play, the players they have, it fits so well with what the manager's philosophy is and how he sets them up. So it's not going to be easy. But Manchester United as a club and as a team that are looking to progress and be better than what they were the last few seasons, they've got to be thinking we can get 3 points here.
Yeah. Are they good enough to?
I don't know.
They don't need 3 points to, if the aim isn't right. Like, I don't think they're realistic title contenders at all. I'm sure they probably still do. But if the aim is to finish top 4, you go away to Wolves team who are going to take points off everybody else. You hopefully score and get a score draw and you're happy. No?
Yeah, I think, listen, based on how Wolves have performed the last season and what they've done against Manchester United, you would think a draw would be a good result. But I don't think Manchester United, they won't be thinking like that. Obviously, their mindset is not going to be let's go, and if we can get a draw, they're going to be thinking we can win this game, because realistically, they have the players to cause Wolves problems. They have the players that can score goals for them, dictate a game, and they could run over the top of them if they perform at a high enough level. Against Chelsea were unlucky at the start of the game, and then Manchester United was just extremely clinical, which is kind of what Manchester United would have been like in the past. They didn't always used to dominate every game. They just would have been, they'd finish teams off. And that's kind of the way you used to play against Manchester United. You kind of feel like you're in it, and all of a sudden you're 2-0 down and the game is over because they got 2 chances. If Man U can be like that throughout the course of the season, with those players finishing off chances and scoring goals and creating, then they should be beating Wolves.
Solskjaer's been speaking about Harry Maguire this week and how the partnership is not just with Victor Lindelof but with David De Gea, and how the plan is for the 3 of them to be very comfortable with one another, especially playing out from the back. If you've got Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof and David De Gea, are you giving the green light and playing out from the back? That is the way to go?
Yeah, definitely. That's what you want to do. Every other team has made strides forward in this department, and then with the new rules about being able to come into the box and pass, even though I think it can be very risky at times because you're just inviting pressure on your own goal, which is crazy. I was watching the weekend for Reading and I was thinking, you're not good enough to be doing this, so take it easy. But Manchester United, different kettle of fish, and you got to be looking at with Maguire and Lindelof and De Gea that there's been talks in the paper about how he's been working on his footwork and trying to improve his distribution on the backwards. It's not bad. They're probably hoping that that's something they're going to work on. So they're definitely going to be working on that being a little diamond that they can pass the ball between and create a space for them to come out with. But that's every team is going that direction. Well, all the big teams are going that direction where they want to play it from the back, and you would think now that all those 3 players are there on long contracts and there for a long time, that they have a foundation to be able to try and do that.
It looks like they're going to get Alexis Sanchez away from the club at the moment with Inter. Like yesterday, it was confirmed that Inter are in talks with Manchester United for Alexis Sanchez. Just for anybody who missed it, it would have been a loan until June 2020 and a buy option for €15 million. Part of the wage obviously paid by Manchester United because he gets paid so much. He asked the club and Solskjaer to join Inter. Now it just depends on Manchester United's decision. Like, really, I think that decision is pretty clear, isn't it?
Oh yeah. The thing is, I don't think Sanchez would be a bad egg around the place. He doesn't strike me as the type of character that, I don't know, so I could be totally wrong here, but he doesn't strike me as someone that's going to be in and messing up training sessions and kicking up a fuss. But I just think his confidence is so low. He feels like, I'm not going to play here, I need to get out and play. So he's going to go to them and ask them. And Man U, it makes total sense. If you can get any of his wages reclaimed, then it's going to just, you can add into back into the club.
They mustn't have like Sky Sports or any Premier League provider in Italy, considering Inter got Lukaku and Sanchez now.
Yeah, they don't watch many games. But no, it's his potential of what he can do, and a free-flowing player of Sanchez's ability who is confident
he's not lost his ability. He's still a very good player. It's just he's been not really done it for the last few months. And we spoke about before about how the opportunities at Arsenal, he was given the ball so many times at Arsenal and everything went through him. So it was... because he was on the ball so often, he was creating more chances, he was scoring more goals. Whereas when he went to United, that was different. He didn't.
Many mouths to feed, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a different setup.
Stephen, good stuff. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. Now, a reminder that this September, the Off the Wall Roadshow in association with Cadbury are bringing Premier League legends Roy Keane and Gary Neville to the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre. The former Man United players will join us for a special off-air event on the 4th of September. Tickets went on sale on Friday at 10 o'clock. And they were sold out a few hours later on Friday evening. All proceeds are going to Aware, providing support and information for people who experience depression. But if you didn't manage to get your hands on tickets to the event, don't worry. We will be running exclusive competitions across Off the Ball for the next 2 weeks. Stay tuned to OTBAM for more on that. Let's bring in some more Tommy Walsh goodness from the aftermath of the game at Croker yesterday, and then we're going to go to the team hotel where Tipperary players are beginning to awaken this morning as All-Ireland champions 2019. Here's Tommy speaking with Will in the aftermath of the game.
Pre-match meal, would you be told, look, make sure to eat this, or would it just be, look, go and do your own thing?
Go and do your own thing, because Cody was a stickler for just get yourself right. If that meant staying up till 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning to get yourself right, that's okay with him.
Fine.
Your only job is to be right on match day, and he trusted lads. Like Chad Fitzpatrick, I think before 2008 All-Ireland against Watford, I think he had a big pizza that time. You'll know your own body from probably 16, 17 years of age, what is good and what's not good for you.
So what was being served at Shea Walsh?
So, Shay, well, what did we have really? Like, we were a stickler for toast. Toast is shocking. Even Porrick to this day, if we went up to the toaster, you could eat 8 slices of toast before going to bed. Around 9 or 10 o'clock. But you're listening, the night before a game, Joe, that was great because it's carbohydrates.
White bread?
Oh, white bread all the way.
Jesus,
yeah,
there's nothing in white bread.
I know, but listen, the toast wasn't too bad. It was the amount of Kerrygold butter you were putting on top. That was the problem. About a half pound of Kerrygold butter.
But that is madness.
It's not really, Joe, because carbohydrates is what you want. Now, it mightn't be good if you're eating it for a month coming up to a game, but the night before a game, it's all about energy and
so every ad breaking up for the match, go on, we have another 2 slices and put on the kettle. Is that what you were doing?
Out for the toast. Now, you wouldn't put sugar in the tea, so...
No. I presume that wasn't your dinner. You're having...
No, the dinner. Sure, it's funny. Like, you're talking to... One guy is telling you chicken is a great thing to be eating the day before a match. Another lad is telling you it should be red meat, you should be eating steak. So I think you just go with whatever. As long as you're not eating chips and burgers and stuff like that, you're not doing too bad, Joe.
Yeah, obviously pre-game analysis there from Tommy in conversation with Joe. A couple of people wanted us to talk about the situation with regards to Hawkeye yesterday's Hogan versus Hawkeye round 2 celebrity deathmatch, and yesterday's didn't look like it was anywhere near over the bar.
No, this is the point I raised after Tipperary Wexford.
I just assumed that the technology was good enough at that point. I was like, now I'm changing my mind. New information came to light, buddy.
I don't know. This is
Dara Hayes, another Hawkeye incident yesterday. Brian Hogan adamant it didn't go over. Can we get the configuration of Hawkeye checked before a Hawkeye decision becomes more controversial? I mean, imagine if there was a point in it, like, is his hand way over the bar there? And what's the signifier? Like, and why is the umpire standing behind the goal? Why is the umpire not, like, looking sideways on? Back and to the left. Think he caught the ball without it going over, says Kieran Donaghy. It's the Hawkeye ball tracker that has me confused. Surely it should show it from the side on, like goal line technology does. Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly. And there's Niall Morgan. Completely agree. White line is a tracer of where it would go, not where it actually went, which doesn't make sense.
Bang on. That's exactly it. That's exactly the point. Are Hawkeye officials actually getting a side-on view despite the fact that they're not showing us? I'm not sure they are, because they would show us.
I mean, you would assume they would show us, wouldn't you?
If they have that, they also have goal line technology. Do they have goal line technology in Croke Park? I've never heard of any goal line technology. Like, that is the exact same thing. The crossing, the lateral movement of it across the line. Like, have you ever heard of goal line technology in Croke Park?
No. And you would think they would tell us, wouldn't you?
If they have that technology to show when it actually crosses the bar, and they have that for the goal as well, which they don't. So that is just that's just false. That is just incorrect information.
It's also amazing athleticism. Like, an amazing feat of athletic ability to be able to get up there and do that. And then the play goes on. Now, in fairness, I think the whole crowd was waiting for the referee to go... Like, we're like, what's going on?
He was interviewed on the Sunday game last night, Brian Hogan, and he said his arm didn't touch the crossbar. So it really is amazing athleticism that his arm managed to crank back all that way without even touching the post.
Now, maybe it was over.
Maybe it was, but I'm saying that the technology doesn't actually give us conclusive proof, it appears.
There's no evidence that it's over.
No, it's weird. Like, it's such a pointless thing showing where the ball would have ended. Like, I mean, the ball would have gone into the back of the net if a goalkeeper doesn't catch the ball, for example.
Exactly.
Like, it won't go anywhere.
Let's give the goal. Sorry, keeper, you got in the way of it there. It would have gone in if you weren't there, so we're going to give the point.
Like, it just removes the whole point of a goalkeeper, that particular graphic. It's a weird one. It's something that's going to be kind of overshadowed by what else happened yesterday, because ultimately it did not matter.
I mean...
But it might matter someday.
And it could definitely have mattered in the semi-final.
It definitely could. There was a much bigger thing from the semi-final, obviously, and that looked kind of weird as well. Obviously, the same goalkeeper as well. So Brian Hogan on the receiving end of a couple of questionable decisions from the technology. We're
going to head over to the Burlow in a minute. First, though, let's hear from Brian Cody in the aftermath of the game.
Brian Cody, these interviews are never easy. Your assessment of that game?
Well, obviously, I mean, the first half was a very, very competitive game. We played very, very well, and a bit of a leader at one stage, and they got a goal, brought it back, but absolutely nothing in it, and it was going to look like it was going to go right to the very, very end, really. But obviously, Richie got sent off just before half time, which very, very definitely impacted on the game.
I feel very cruel, actually, even asking you to talk to me here. We can hear the Tipperary team celebrate in the background. It shows the cruelty of sport and how things can change on sixpence, and that sending off really was a turning point.
It was, for sure, yeah. It was going to be a big ask. I mean, we weren't fancied to be able to take them on 15 on 15, so to ask us to do 14 against 15 for the whole second half was a huge ask, but that's the way it worked out.
And what's your assessment on the red card?
Look, I wasn't expecting a red card, to be honest. I was very, very close to it, and I suppose the referee didn't really know either, because he spent ages trying to make his mind up about it. And I think you don't have to be very, very sure in your own head if you're going to issue a red card.
I assume, on a loss like that, when it didn't go down to the wire as well, it must be very hard to stand on the sideline and not be able to do much.
Yeah, look, but I mean, that's sport. I mean, that's the way it works. I mean, you fight it out and you go to the very end, and when the final whistle goes, you win or you lose, and we didn't win it. So that's you've got to do these things.
Finally, before I let you go, your dressing room, I presume the word you'd use for it is probably just quite devastation.
Absolutely, a huge disappointment. He was not there in the final, and that's our dressing room for today.
All right, let's cross straight over to the Tipperary team hotel. Will Callanan is standing by with a couple of Tipperary players. Will, take it away.
Hi, Mr. Hi, Ger and Eoin. Welcome back to the Burlington. Two of the guys that have had to get up early to do the media duties are Bonner Mara and Niall O'Mara. Good morning to you, lads.
How are you, man?
Well, look, Niall, I'll come to you first on this one because you scored a goal in an All-Ireland final. What's the feeling about getting number 28 for the Premier now?
Yeah, it's unbelievable, I suppose. Tip have a great hurling tradition. We talked last week about history. We just wanted to make our own bit of history, and I suppose yesterday, we played Tip hurling for the whole game, and it took a while to get going, but we did. And in the second half, it really opened up, and yeah, we're really happy performance. I think Eamon O'Shea's fingerprint was all over it again. He had the work rate that Liam Sheedy expects you to bring. So I think our whole management team, that performance summed up what they brought to us this year.
Well, look, I get the expectation for a lot of us going into the game is that Kilkenny were going to try and constrain the space, make it difficult for you as a forward line. Was it difficult in that first half to try and get decent ball in? To me, it seemed like obviously after Richie was sent off, the space opened up. But that first half was a bit of a war of attrition, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think a lot of games start like that because I suppose it's tight and teams don't want to be giving the other team too much of a start. And I suppose when it started raining, then it was that extra bit hard. The boys were coming out to the wall and they were slipping and it wasn't sticking. So I suppose it took time, as you say, to break them down. You know, Kilkenny are a serious outfit, and we've experienced that throughout the years. But I suppose the second half, the boys stayed in a bit deeper, and the ball coming in was probably coming in from midfield, which makes it easier. It doesn't have to travel as far. So, yeah, it took a while to break them down, but thankfully we didn't. I suppose we got a couple of early goals second half to really give us the momentum.
Yeah, I mean, that spell was incredible. 15-60 minutes, you ran off 2 goals and 7 points. That was the win of the game, really, that quarter of the game.
Yeah, I suppose the hurling, some of the scores, they were unbelievable. Like, you know, I think it was Bubbles' goal. I think it was just top class. The ball across from Seamie was unreal, first touch and bang. So that just gives, you know yourself, when you get a goal like that, it gives everyone a massive lift. I think the whole team was buzzing off it, and it helped us drive on. And at the back, like, in fairness, Kilkenny rained a lot of ball down, and Barry Heffernan and Ronan Maher, the backs probably never really get the credit they should, but they were unbelievable yesterday.
Well, look, I thought both Heffernan and Ronan Maher were incredible in both the semi-final and the final. Having that extra bit of protection behind you, I'm sure, helps you as a forward line as well.
Yeah, I suppose, look, in fairness, you know from training, 2 boys are serious in the air, and they're also, like, deceivingly fast, so any ball you get off them is hard won. So I suppose yesterday they really showed that, like, they come out with ball after ball there, and they were just offloading to the right man. We really just used the ball well there, like similar to the Wexford game. We started using the ball very well in the start of the second half, and it kind of gave us the foundation to push forward.
Bonner, I guess so frustrating for you. I mean, fantastic to win a third All-Ireland title, but you would have loved to have been fit and involved yesterday.
Yeah, of course you would. All-Ireland final day is what you dream for and where you want to get to. But look, I was delighted for the group yesterday, and I think they really showed through grit and the performance followed with the work that they put in since November last year. So me personally, it was a bit disappointing, but from the group I was absolutely delighted with how the boys carried themselves and conducted their operation yesterday. To come out on top with such good performance and such a good win against Kilkenny was a great outcome.
Yeah, I suppose, does it make it any more special you beaten one of your great rivals there? And I think there's a very respectful rivalry between the two counties.
Yeah, it's a great rivalry. The gloves come off really when Tip and Kilkenny go at each other, and it brings the best out of both sides and both teams. And there's been some tremendous battles over the year. And we've came on the wrong end of some of them, but it's nice to come out on the right side of a few of them as well.
Yeah, because I think he lost 10 out of 13 against Brian Cody managed Kilkenny teams in Championship, and now you've beaten them by 9 and 14 points in All-Ireland finals. Maybe you're just kind of shaken off where they were a bit of a bogey team for you as well.
Sure, yeah, it's these kind of rivalries, they ebb and flow. Sometimes Kilkenny, when they were on top, they were a superb team, they were going for 5 in a row. That's a serious achievement, And we've an awful lot of youth coming through there, and there's a good mixture there in the 40-man panel at the moment. I think Tipperary are in a good place and they're driving forward at the moment, which is good for Tip.
Well, I was looking at your bench, and there's so many lads there involved still in the under-20 team going for an All-Ireland title as well. Potentially they get a double. Some of those guys come on and made a big impression when they came on too.
Of course they did, and the All-Ireland winning under-21 team last year, there's a few boys like Ger Brown came on and scored a point. These boys are really pushing hard, which is great to see, and it makes our job a little bit harder as older boys that are running out of speed in the legs. But it's great for Tipperary, and come the weekend as well with the under-20s going down to play Cork and Limerick. It's great for Tipperary hurling. And it's great to have these younger boys coming into the panel because they add so much. It's great to have such a good mixture of young and experience there. I think it's a big plus for Tipperary.
I want to ask you both about Sheedy. I'll ask you first about it, Bonner. What's the difference that he's made? Because last year was a big disappointment for you. You didn't get out of your province. I know Munster is very difficult, but you had to watch knockout from the stands and from the TV compared to going up the steps of the Hogan stand yesterday. What has Liam brought to the party for you this year?
Liam is a special guy. He's a real motivator. He's just real good at getting the right people in to do the right jobs. And you look at our back room there. We had 27 guys in the back room, and every single one of them 27 guys brought something special to the table. That's the professionalism that Liam really brings, and the drive that Liam brings. He gets the top of the top in to do the jobs, and I think it just showed everything from strength and conditioning to nutrition. There was not a box ticked. Every 1%er that could be got was got, and that's what Liam brings. Liam just brings that elite level to the team, and I think you could see it yesterday from the performance as well. Well,
Shane McGrath was saying to us off the ball last week that Liam is not afraid to bring guys in. Your doctor's even an accomplished former inter-county player. That's the standard of backroom team you have. You've got Eoin, you've got Tommy, top coaches, former managers as well. That's a hell of a management setup that Liam put together.
Yeah, well, I guess, do you know what? I actually was reading Brendan Maher's article yesterday, and he said how he nearly cried when Liam left in 2010. And I was just, at the start of the year, the boys were telling me how good he was. And obviously I hadn't experienced, but he leaves, there's no minor detail left untouched, and I think that's really counts. It's all the small parts joined together to make the jigsaw puzzle. He brought in Eoin, I think back in February or March around the league, added a new dimension. Tommy and Dara had done unbelievable work as in terms of coaching, and they had picked different things they wanted to work on that they weren't happy with last year. So they analysed, we'll say 2018's championship, and said we need to do this and this to get competitive again. And that was kind of the building point, because they knew exactly where we wanted to go and how we wanted to get there. And I think that made so much of a difference. And I suppose with Liam, what you see is what you get. If you're pulling your weight, he'll do everything he can for you. And I think everyone bought into that. And, I suppose Eamon's my own club man in Kilkenny. He worked with us last year, and we got a series buzz. We won our first North final in 20 years. And I suppose he brought the same energy. He brings the same energy everywhere. He's just a serious hurling man. If he has, I suppose, different way of looking at the game. And once you can see it, it just makes it easy.
In terms of the hurling landscape at the moment, this must be fairly exciting as a player. You've had 3 different champions over the last 3 years, 2 and 4 for you guys. Obviously, next year, it looks like an absolutely wide open championship. Even we've seen this year, Kilkenny coming back to the fore after 3 years away. Is it exciting just facing into another year, even when we're 24 hours after winning the title?
Do you know what? It's so competitive, isn't it? You have 9 or 10 teams there that I suppose. And I given they can beat anybody. You've seen it. Like, say, Dublin had done a very good Leinster Championship, got bet by Laois. Laois probably didn't get the credit deserved when they played us. Everyone was kind of saying, tip this, tip that, but I thought Laois were very good. And then I suppose, obviously, Galway, we're looking to come back. There's so many teams that can bounce back. It was like us last year, which you said last year, typically Kenny would have been in the final this year, probably not. So I think that's probably the joy of it. It's just so open. And yeah, I suppose we'll enjoy this one and then try and focus again on next year, yeah.
Well, it's still a hell of a turnaround. He lost by 11 points in the Munster final. A lot of people were very concerned about the way he defended that day as well. Like, it changed an awful lot from there. I know Laois maybe didn't quite open up the way it was meant to. You beat Wexford, showing a lot of resilience to win that game as well. You did a hell of a job to bounce back from that Limerick defeat.
Yeah, I suppose great start. Obviously, the aim was to get out of Munster first and then win it, obviously. So we had the chance to win it. I think the same day we'd given so much to the first 4 games. I suppose we didn't perform in the final, which was disappointing, but we have those days. I think every team, I don't think any team will ever go through this championship unbeaten. Yeah. And I suppose that was proven for us. If it was any day to lose, maybe the Munster final, you don't want to lose it, but I suppose it gave us a kick again to get going and really put our heads back down and get to work. So we said 3 steps to get to, I suppose, Liam McCarthy, and 1 step at a time we got there, taken by that approach. So I think that was important as well, that we obviously targeted the first day down in Cork to win it, and we did. Gave us a good start. We followed on from there, but once the Munster Championship was over, you just kind of click the reset button, because at the end of the day, everyone wants to win the Liam McCarthy. So,
Bonner, your injury, where are you at with it at the moment?
I'm about a month off surgery there, so I've surgery done about a month, so it was important to me to get back on the watt bike and stuff like that and get back training. So I got off the crutches, I'd say, after about a week and a half, and I was back on the bike, I'd say, in that time as well. So it's coming on. I'm very happy, very pleased. Surgeon Ray Moran took care of me over there in Santry, and top-notch job. Very happy with it, so it'll take time. Obviously, the ACL is a long-term injury, but the next few months will fly when you're after winning an All-Ireland. You have the fire and the burn to get back as quick as you can.
I'm sure you must be looking forward to getting back to Thurles this evening and celebrating with the fans. I was there 2016. It was a hell of a party then. It would take a lot to match that.
Yeah, do you know what? I suppose 2016 was brilliant, and this will be brilliant as well. I suppose for Tip fans as well, our traditional hurling county, and last year I suppose a lot of them were gutted and whatever else, so I'd say they really relish this moment, because it looked like we were going to be gone from the table for a while, but we got back, and I'm sure they'll love every minute of it like ourselves.
Honor, before I hand back to studio, how did you end up having to do media this morning? Did you lose some kind of game at 4 o'clock in the morning?
I think we were all in a function room there last night. I think we were just kind of cornered in, but sure, look, it's all part and parcel of it, and sure, we had a good laugh this morning as well. So,
yeah.
Lads, great to talk to you. Thanks a million for coming across to chat to us this morning as well on Off the Ball and on OTBM. Thanks a lot to both Bonner Maher and to Niall O'Mara there. Lads, as you can see, understandably very happy and reasonably fresh-faced after the celebrations, which I believe finished around 5 a.m. here in the Burlington last night.
Yeah, are they the only 2 up and about, Will? Is it did they really literally draw a short straw? It sounded like they did.
Well, Barrett is here as well, so I'm hoping to chat to Cathal in the next few minutes as well. We had Cathal, and then he got caught up with a coffee just before we came over. So they're the only 3 that have emerged so far. I don't think Liam Sheedy's out of bed yet either. So apparently they were saying that the PRO came up to them in the function room last night and said, right, you 3 are doing the media in the morning. So they really drew the short straw. I guess for Bonner Maher, at least he was injured, so he has to do a bit of media because of that. Poor old Niall O'Mara scores a goal in the All-Ireland final in the 25th minute yesterday, and then gets forced to do interviews on an hour's sleep.
I think you should take the glory while you can, and they can always have a snooze this afternoon. Will, good stuff. We'll be back to you a little bit later on, especially if you manage to get your hands on Cathal Barrett. Right, it is 3 minutes past 9 this morning. We're going to be back with Diarmuid Ling talking hurling as well. We've got some Gary Breen goodness coming your way, and Phil with the sports news too. Stay tuned.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
I hear you some wiring needs a fixing, ma'am. The name's Buzz, on account of my work.
No chance.
Not all cowboys ride horses. All safe electric registered electrical contractors must give you a certificate of completion that shows their work meets approved standards. Find one nearby on safeelectric.ie.
OTB AM.
All right, very welcome back. It is 4 minutes past 9 this morning. Going to go to Diarmuid Ling in just a minute. He's going to give us his reaction to yesterday. Niall O'Mara's goal was class.
It's unbelievable.
It might get overshadowed. Second goal is a complete fluke. Third goal is genius, right? But O'Mara's is the one I think that is the biggest game changer, because it gets Tipperary into I definitely don't agree with the whole Tip were definitely going to win that game anyway with 15 men. Like, it was straightforward, or they were beginning to open up the Kilkenny defence. It didn't feel that way in the ground.
No, on that Niall O'Mara goal, when Seamus Kennedy put over, I'm not sure how many points he scored, certainly one anyway, when he hits one from deep, the Tip lads beside me in the terrace were like, it's a football sidestep. So I wonder what Niall O'Mara's sidestep is. Is that a hurling sidestep, or what it is? Because he left a couple of men for dead with his sidestep yesterday. It was unbelievable. He
did that perfect thing where he's running straight at the defender,
and there's nothing you can do there.
Not going past him, just jinking left and right, so the defender is actually literally turned inside out. Dermot Ling is with Dermot Ling is with us this morning. Dermot, how you doing?
Very good, Jar. How's it going?
Did you ever in your life think you'd ever see a Brian Cody team dismantled so spectacularly?
No, I suppose no, that's true. I don't. You don't ever expect that. I'm not surprised in some respects when they go down to 14. Like the battle that's required is obviously going to be there, but putting so many balls under pressure to be launching balls straight in on top of the two Mahers, Barry Heffernan, and not maybe being able to work the lines a little bit more, you're going to be under serious pressure, because it means the quality of ball going back into Callanan, Dwyer, Ford, John McGrath, who are all just doing so much damage, was always going to improve. And so that created the conditions, definitely, but at the start, from the outset, no. So you always think it's going to be 2 or 3 points if Kilkenny have to Kilkenny.
Why were Kilkenny lorrying ball in on a full-back line which had a man advantage and is also notoriously brilliant under the high ball?
I mean, I suspect it's because it's part of... I know they've changed their tactics, they've changed their style of play. They use the ball very, very well, and have done for the last 2 or 3 years. The more the game is focused on that pass and possession game. But I still do think with Tipperary and Kilkenny, there's a lot of gloves off kind of moments with them. Like, they're just like, we go old school, and there's the lash and rain, and there's the full clearances, and that's what the crowd responds to. And I don't know how effective... Conor Fogarty and Padraig Walsh in possession, carrying it forward, outstanding. Killian Buckley, I'm not sure about Killian's delivery at times under pressure. And then I thought coming out of the back, I thought Paul Murphy was doing well, but I didn't think his clearances were fantastic. And Joey Holden and Hughie Lawler on the ball, okay, they were playing the lines from time to time, but a lot of the time I think that the clearances were... suspect. Like, not a type of clearance, we'll say, when you're dependent on a sweeper model, which Wexford would do, when they know that when they get the ball, they have to work up the lines with those extra passes, and those extra passes have to be quality. You don't play that system comfortably. They do if they need to, but they don't play comfortably, and they certainly don't choose it. So they don't play the lines, I don't think, as well. They're much more interested in a more direct ball. So when they went down to 14... to not be able to play, there was a few times I felt Killian Buckley in particular at one stage, Joey Holden another time, there was passes up the line that they needed to use, and instead they lorried it in, and it came back with interest.
But there was an interesting moment in the first half, Gizzy. Conor Brown making a break up underneath the Hogan stand that led to a Kilkenny score. I can't remember who got it, but that would suggest to me that they had the ability, they had the runners in the middle third to actually say to themselves, well, actually we don't need to lump this ball in long.
They unquestionably have the ability to do it. These guys are all developing at colleges levels now, and they're playing with everybody else around the country. They do have the ability to do it. Why they don't do it? I don't know, Owen. I suppose it falls between the line. Definitely at 15 on 15, it's a very different game. But when it goes to 14 on 15, and players are coming under that little bit more pressure, and you're also talking about from forwards, they've changed under Liam Sheedy, Tipperary forwards. They're not just... You become smarter tackling forwards as well as harder tackling forwards, and I think when you have that, when you have Callanan, like the Bubbles, the McGraths, when they're tackling, but they're tackling smarter, it's the pressure to revert to type and get the clearance in just intensifies to the point where you don't really have much choice. Down a man, that choice is less again. So I think they have it. They have the capability to do it, but I don't think it's their most comfortable game. And so when they needed to use it most, I don't think it was there for them.
I think in retrospect, we're going to come back and look at this year as a year where we were denied the opportunity to see the two best teams in the country go at each other again, in the fact that Limerick got ambushed in the semi-final for whatever reason. It happens, and then they started to hit wides when they were so far behind, and they started to go for goals, and it was just a bit of a disaster. But actually, a Limerick Tip game now, the whole world wants to see. It's just, it was that year that Waterford got ambushed by Limerick in the All-Ireland semi-final as well, and we all wanted to see that Waterford team, that great Waterford team against that great Kilkenny team, and we didn't get the chance to see it. I have a feeling that we're all going to come to regret the fact that Limerick didn't get over Kilkenny in the semi-final, and that we're never going to get to see an All-Ireland final play out between those two teams in the current guise as that they're at the minute.
I thought you were going to argue for a Limerick Wexford All-Ireland final there, George.
Well, I mean, look,
that's the one that we were all waiting for.
That would have been amazing. That really would have been amazing. Watching the game yesterday, you're like, especially in the second half, 41 minutes on the clock, this game's over. It was completely finished. There was no way back, and there was no sense that they even knew how to get back into the game. Whereas at least if Tip had done that, I don't know. It's all a bunch of stuff and nonsense.
It is all a bunch of stuff and nonsense in one respect, but I do think that when you want to see that game between Tipperary and Limerick at in their absolute pomp, which they've kept the highest standard in the game up for 2 years, definitely, and it was no doubt an absolute ambush by Kilkenny in the semi-finals. But at the same time, you have to give them their absolute dues for that. This Tipperary team is what I would have the question in that regard, is because Limerick destroyed them. Limerick destroyed them in the Munster final. So it's. I wouldn't be too excited to see this Tipperary team 6 weeks ago. That wasn't the big game after the semi-final against Wexford, when a man down, 20 minutes on the clock, 5 points down, and at that point in time I wouldn't have been too interested in seeing Tipperary Limerick. But Tipperary, after coming back, and Tipperary loosening up, and Tipperary with Noel McGrath midfield, with Michael Brink catching ball all over the place, Seamus Callanan and Jason Ford and Bubbles working together, the work of Dan McCormack, Niall O'Mara's efficiency, when they come in, and then that's not even going near the back six who were just phenomenal yesterday, and were in the closing 20 minutes of that game against Wexford as well. From that point on, I see the desire. But before that, I think, and this is obviously testament to Liam Sheedy and Eamon O'Shea, the management team there, it's I'm not too interested in this Tipperary team, because I thought they still haven't resolved what their deepest issues are in terms of not getting the most out of themselves. Yeah,
now look, the point you made about Wexford, I think forever they will look at this as a huge opportunity lost for them. The 5 points, the man up, the fact that their style of play was actually so perfectly suited to deal with a team who were a man down, and that somehow the wires got crossed. There was a short circuiting, and they went away from the thing that had made them great in the first place, even within that game. I think that it's going to be a very long winter for Wexford, but it should be a fairly encouraging one too when they get past the grieving process of what's happened. They're right there with the best teams in the country at the minute.
They're right there, and the problem is, when you're not right there all the time, you lose the knowledge of what comes with the likes of Tipperary, Kilkenny, of being there all the time. And I felt we kind of shot ourselves out very early, and we had this giddy intensity, and then all of a sudden, when this finish line is not far away and it's all looking so perfectly possible, you stop doing the thing, you stop doing the thing that's got you to the point. You start doing the thing that you think got you to the point, which was maybe some of the frills. So I think once we spend a little bit more time at this level, but you look at the teams that we're looking at and the standards that we're at, like Limerick, I don't think Limerick are going anywhere. Obviously, Tipperary, I'm assuming Liam Sheedy wants to stay on for another couple of years with them. They're not going to go anywhere either. Kilkenny, interested to see what will happen with Kilkenny now, what will happen with Brian Cody, and if there was a change, there, how significant an impact that would be. But I think that they're still kind of emerging as a team anyway, so I think they're just going to develop on as it is. I think for Wexford, the standards are high. Galway are going to come back too. The standards are all around us. Dublin are making a bit of a comeback finally as well. So it doesn't take much in a place like Wexford, I think, to get knocked back a little bit if you ship a couple of defeats and the standards are increasing all around you. But I think we should be looking at it as we're happy with what's going to happen.
All right, Jeremy, great to have you with us this morning. Thanks a million for making the time to talk to us.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Jeremy Lane giving us some thoughts there on the All-Ireland Hurling final. definitely. So Tip have no regrets the way the year ended. Kilkenny can have no regrets about the fact that they were beaten in the final in the way they were beyond the red card. Obviously the red card will be the thing that they linger on, and the fact that they were doing okay. But I think for Limerick and for Wexford, certainly there's plenty for them to get their teeth stuck into over the winter.
And plenty for them to regret as well. Like he mentions Liam Sheedy there, he's going nowhere. Liam Sheedy wants to do it back to back. It is obviously an unusual situation that he has won 2 All-Irelands in a row as a manager. There's just a massive gap in between the two of them. That's what he's thinking next year. That is a huge carrot for this team because it's different to Limerick this year.
All right, let's go back over to the Tipperary Team Hotel, and Carl Barrett is with us. Carl, good morning to you. How you doing?
Morning, lads. How are you getting on?
Yeah, we're doing well. What kind of a night did you have?
It was quiet night.
Yeah. And
good, very good night.
How did you get press ganged into being forced to get up early this morning?
I have no idea. I'm actually wondering that myself.
You must have done something bad in the aftermath of the game. You must have done something bad. Come here, the second half. I want to talk to you about that before we talk to you about the first half. In the second half, you were on a world of ball for that first 15-20 minutes. It was kind of a dream scenario for you. What's your recollection of how well the start of the second half in particular goes for the Tipperary defence?
Yeah, it's. I don't really know, to be honest. I just kept finding the ball in front of me, which was great, and so it was nice that there was no one breathing down my neck really to take it off me or anything like that for a change. And really, I don't know. I think we kind of just stuck to our process and stuck to our game plan, worked the ball out through the lines and give it into the boys and do the damage inside. The forwards are inside really, but that was probably the biggest thing. Like, just we knew like the restart was going to be a big massive thing in the second half. We knew Kilkenny were going to come everything at us, thundering and lightning the whole lot. Like, so we knew we really need to start as quick as we could possibly.
Obviously, it's not really a pre-programmed sweeper role when the opposition goes down a man and you suddenly find yourself the free man. But you seem very comfortable. Like, sometimes players get honeypotted towards the ball, or they end up double marking somebody and not really playing the role of a sweeper. But you seem very comfortable actually making sure that you would be where the ball was going to be, as opposed to getting sucked in and just being an extra body around a ball being lorried into the full back line.
Yeah, it's not my first time being a sweeper. I've done it a good few times with sweeper over the last couple of years. Like, I remember Conor Manny when he was playing full back. He didn't really let me go too far. If there was ever a sweeper, he used to be roaring at me. So it was always kept to the 21. So I probably should thank him a little for that. But no, it's just, look, I just had to play with instincts really. Like, no, you can sense the danger. If Kilkenny have the ball, it's going in, and you just need to get back, just help our own, and look, just kind of move with the half backs and just support as much as I can and try to get on the ball. It's a cornerback stream really, to be honest with you.
It's interesting that you say that. So when Kilkenny had the ball, you basically knew straight away that they were going route one, and then you had the efficient tools to deal with that.
Yeah, like you could see, like Kilkenny are an amazing team, and they have some ball winners, so you knew, when they got the ball, they broke that tackle, you knew it was coming in. So look, it was just a matter of just supporting the boys as best I could really.
Were you surprised that they didn't go with a different route after you were winning so much ball in the full back line?
Not really, to be honest. When you're in a battle like that and 80,000 people roaring and Kilkenny are coming down your throat, the only thing I'm thinking about really is trying to get my hands on the ball. Those tactics or anything like that does not come into play there.
Carl, how's the jaw this morning? Obviously, you got a bit of a belt there.
Yeah, no, the jaw is not too bad yet. No, the jaw is okay, yeah.
You have a little mark on your mouth there. Is that connected to the tackle?
It's probably just a bit off the helmet is all, not major really. But I looked at it in regards to that, as I said earlier on there, look, it's you have to give huge credit for any man that steps out on that field, the commitment you put in there for the last 9 months. And look, it is disappointing for someone to kind of have it taken away. You're training 9 hard months for the big day, and when it's kind of taken away, it is disappointing. So you would personally, you'd feel very sorry for Richie, because you wouldn't want to see anyone's day kind of taken away. But there's not really much I can say on it. Look, the rule, I don't know what the rule is, a high tackle, but look, personally, I'd feel sorry for him, because look, I know that I'd respect every man that steps on that pitch, and the effort they all put in, so you wouldn't like him their day to be kind of end up like that. Yeah, in fairness, because you guys have been having quite the physical battle up to that point, you caught him a little bit high a little bit earlier on, but that again, I mean, there's clear footage there that you were actually going for the ball, but were you concerned when that happened that the referee was going to come over and have a word? Because the high tackle has been such a focal point of what they've been talking about this year. No, not really, to be honest. I heard people kind of going on about it, but to be honest, if you're going on about that, you're really clutching at straws. I seen the footage, sure. I'm clear as day going for the ball. I think it's my wrist that touches off his helmet. I'm not looking at Richie, I'm looking at the ball. So I'm competing for the ball. There's a big difference.
Yeah, fair enough. And in the other one, obviously, you're actually getting out of the way, and that's when Richie catches you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What was the immediate aftermath in half-time? What's said at that point when you are a man up to make sure that you're clearly going to benefit from this? Because obviously you'd come through the semi-final where you'd gone down a man and it actually turned the game around against Wexford. So clearly it's not a straight thing that, okay, we're a man up here, we're obviously going to just coast home now.
Yeah, like it is a tricky one. You can really fall into a trap and get comfortable. Like the last thing you want to do is get comfortable, especially against a team like Kilkenny, because they're ruthless and they will bury you. So it's literally sticking to your game plan and sticking to the process of what you're doing. Like it's great having a free man, but like if you start getting anyway complacent, like it can come against you massively. So that was all. Like the talk at half time was literally, let's not fall into the trap now, lads, of getting complacent or anything like that. Let's stick to our process and keep working moment by moment.
Yeah, so there's a calmness at half-time then, is there? I think the Niall O'Meara goal probably helps bring a bit of calmness in the fact that you're suddenly in front from early on. It looked like Kilkenny were, they'd got the foothold in the game, whatever it was, 8-3, you know, they'd started well and you guys had been taking your time to get into the game.
Yeah, look, there was a calmness, but like obviously, I don't think we would have been massively happy with how we started the game, as you said. Like I thought we were a bit slow to get into in the first 10 minutes, as you said. Kilkenny went 8-3 ahead, and like they will punish you if you make mistakes. And we made a couple of mistakes even in the backs. Like our forwards made a couple of mistakes, and they will punish you. But like there was calmness at half time, but like we wouldn't have been happy with how we were in the first half. Like we set our standards very high, and we have our goals, and we just try to hit them.
Just thinking back earlier on in the year, we'd Bonner Maher on with us a little bit earlier on. He did his cruciate. You did your hamstring that same day, and it looked like you were going to be out for quite a while, but actually you made it back really quickly. There was definitely a sense that if both of you had gone out for a significant period of time, that maybe this Tipperary team weren't going to be able to fully deliver on their potential. When you think back to that point now, did you know straight away you were going to get back quite quickly, or was that kind of a worrying few days for you?
No, obviously, look, you're very worried. Like there's not worse than missing a match. But look, there was no point me dwelling on really. Like the following day, like I linked up with Carver, our strength and conditioning coach, who's been absolutely amazing with us. And like every day, if I needed him, he'd be there. And I just worked my socks off to get back as quick as I could, to be honest.
Carl, just on Liam Sheedy, obviously everybody's been speaking about him in glowing terms naturally over the last 24 hours. For you personally, what has his return as Tipperary manager done for you as a hurler?
Massive. Look, as I said earlier on, like Liam Sheedy, I think is the engine in our dressing room. Like he absolutely drives our standards, and look, he sets high goals and sets high standards. But he'll ensure for him to be the best of what he does. He'll make sure you're the best of what you do, and he'll bring in the best people around, and he will just try to get you there. He'll leave no stone unturned, and he'll facilitate any needs right at all. Like that's what he does. He's an absolute driver, and just there's nothing else you could say about him. Like the man, in fairness, is remarkable. Like.
Carl, what's the plan for today?
The plan, I think, is I might get an hour's sleep and then we'll go to Crumlin Hostel then, and then head back down the road and see the fans and Tip. Hopefully it'll be a good turnout for the lads.
I've no doubt it will be. Carl, congratulations. Enjoy the hours, Kip, and the rest of what's coming over the next couple of weeks. Thanks a million for joining us.
Thanks a million, lads. Cheers. Thanks a lot.
It's Carl Barrett there giving us some immediate response to a big 24 hours for him. Phil, how are you?
Good, yeah. Good. Didn't go into it. Watched it at home. Seems you're at an advantage watching these games at home nowadays because you didn't get to see the replay of the incident.
So much happens. Well, you've got to go on Twitter at half time and it's grainy footage and it's like, what did happen there?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I was at the World Cup final when Zidane headbutted Materazzi and I missed that too, so, you know, I have a bit of form for this. Pretty sure they did show that replay and I missed that too, but...
Yeah, they have to do something about it though. Like if you're paying €90 for a ticket and €7 for a match programme, then you want to be seeing what's going on, like everything. And like it was obviously the defining moment of the game. So you'd want to be able to see it and not have somebody that is sitting at home be able to inform you. Like there was people asking on Twitter, what happened? Was it a red? And having to be informed by people sitting at home.
Yeah.
Not great. It's kind of like VAR in Premier League grounds where you're at a disadvantage. But look, the victorious Tipperary team are going to bring the Liam McCarthy Cup home this evening. A big turnout is expected in Thurles after their 28th All-Ireland success, thanks to that 325 to 20 points win over Kilkenny at Croke Park. The goals for Tipperary coming from Niall O'Mara, Seamus Callanan and John O'Dwyer. Richie Hogan sent off for the Cats in the first half. Tip took full advantage of the extra man in the second half to cruise to a 14-point win, and in doing so inflict Kilkenny's heaviest defeat in the final since 1964. You heard Kyle Barrett there talking about the winning manager Liam Sheedy, and he says the win was extremely satisfying, especially after the Munster final defeat to Limerick in June.
It's a special day, All-Ireland final day is the big day in all our GA calendars from a hurling perspective, so to have come here today and have won, it's really, really pleasing. I guess, we were supposed when we started back in November, that was the dream, but we're a long ways away from it, and we had a bit of a blip in the road in the end of June, and probably a lot of questions asked of us in the group, and thankfully today we sit here having come up with the answers in the All-Ireland series. So look, just thrilled. It was an outstanding victory, and we're just absolutely thrilled.
Before the main event, Galway made it a hat-trick of minor titles with a 3-14 to 12 points win over Kilkenny. Sean McDonough scoring 2-8 for Galway. Frank Lampard's first home game in charge of Chelsea ended in a 1-1 draw at Leicester in the Premier League. Despite going ahead early on through Mason Mount, he dispossessed Wilfred Ndidi and finished to put them 1-0 up. But Ndidi did make up for it in the second half with the equaliser for Leicester. He headed home a corner. So a 1-1 draw. Lampard says the side need to be better at controlling games.
It's a results business, clearly, and we have to have game management. If a game turns slightly, and it didn't even turn against us big time in the first half, it was just a feeling of them having more possession and being in the game. We're good enough to wrestle that back and move the ball better, and that's something we can work on, all of us to work on.
Yeah, the other game yesterday, newly promoted Sheffield United beat Crystal Palace 1-0. Tonight, Manchester United will be looking to follow on from that 4-0 win over Chelsea last weekend when they take on Wolves at Molineux from 8 o'clock. United played Wolves 3 times last season, didn't beat them in any of those meetings. Dundalk host Bohemians in the semi-final of the EA Sports Cup tonight. A 7:45 kick-off at Oriel Park, and the winners will face Derry City in the final. At 8 o'clock, Shamrock Rovers are away to Waterford in the SSE Electricity League Premier Division. Donegal's Mark English put in some finish to win the 800 metres at the Diamond League meeting in Birmingham. I'm not sure if you saw it, lads, but he was so far back and just came out of nowhere to win. Obviously he got kind of boxed in and he worked his way at the final bend, he worked his way on the outside, and then the commentary, the footage I watched, the commentators aren't even mentioning him, and all of a sudden he just comes from nowhere and wins it. Brilliant performance from Mark English. Just going to finish off with the golf then. American Justin Thomas won the BMW Championship in Illinois by 3 shots, finished on 25 under. Rory McIlroy ended on 11 under. Shane Lowry back on 5 under. Lowry and Graham McDowell won't be at the Tour Championship next week. Different format this year because we've seen it so often with the Tour Championship that you could be well down in the FedEx Cup, you come along, you win the Tour Championship, you take all the money. But this year they've changed it. Justin Thomas is top of the FedEx Cup, so he begins the Tour Championship on 10 under par. So Patrick Cantlay is second. He's on 8 under. Brooks Koepka is third, he's 7 under. Patrick Reed 6 under. McIlroy is 5th, so he's 5 under. He's 5 shots to make up, and Justin Thomas. Then the players between 6 and 10, they start at 4 under. So if you're right down at the bottom, between 26 and 30, only 30 players, you start at even par. You've got 10 shots to make
lead, 4 days, I don't know. I mean,
it can be done.
Yeah.
Could they not change it the other way, that the Tour Championship didn't have as big a weighting?
Let's wait and see, because they keep trying to fix this thing, and it's never quite perfect. Anyway, you guys thought this was over, but it's not.
We tried to hook a big one, but he got away.
Deal or no deal? Breaking news. Barcelona confirmed Philippe Coutinho has joined Bayern on a season-long loan with an option for a £109.8 million sterling permanent deal. That's 120 million euros. Wow.
Yeah, this was
an option to sign, but not signing for 120 million. It's no way it's worth 120 million, is there?
I would have said that when Liverpool sold him to Barcelona as well. And Liverpool got a lot of money out of it. He got the number 10 shirt as well, but a good move from him. Although Bayern didn't start the league with a win.
Loads of
mad stuff happened. So
PSG,
PSG, Bayern, Barca, Man City. So I think something like April 2014 is the last time that they all failed to win on the same weekend.
Yeah, over 800 days since Real Madrid have been ahead of Barcelona in the league standings.
Gareth Bale, by the way.
Bale,
the hero.
I mean, what's the story? Like, played really well.
Yeah, and all the lads are going, yeah, got to keep him in the team.
I mean, you know, if only Man United had signed him, or somebody, like...
Or if only Zinedine Zidane had realised that he's an actual world-class player and had kissed and made up a couple of weeks ago.
That's right. All's well that ends well. They're going to win the league now. That's all from us this morning on OTBAM. We're going to be back tomorrow. More reaction to Tipperary's All-Ireland hurling win. We'll also have the latest episode of our Irish rugby depth chart with Ronan O'Gara talking us through the 9s and 10s. We'll get reaction to Manchester United against Wolves, or Wolves-Man United. And a reminder, of course, that Off the Ball is back on the radio tonight at 7 o'clock with full analysis and reaction and debate about everything that happened yesterday in the football show from 9 o'clock this evening. OTB Sports Radio is live all day. The best place to get us is on the Go Loud app or on offtheball.com/radio. We'll see you tomorrow. Good luck.
This is OTB Sports Radio.